Hello, boys and girls, lads and lassies, and welcome back to Wednesday night's movies with one of Jim's selections. I'm assuming it's one of your favourites, Jim. The
Might
Shawshank
be.
Redemption. It's one of my wife's favourites. We sat and watched it on Monday together, and she might pop into the chat just to say because it's one of her favourites. So we enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's I wish I could say it right now, but we obviously want to keep the audience on the hook for a little while. But one of my when we do the review, we do the what was the worst part, what was the best part.
Yeah.
One of the best part of it is literally why I like the entire story. So I can't say it at this moment, but I will definitely reveal it when we do a little bit of a review. But
Yeah.
overall, I will say the worst part that this film really suffered was that it was up against other really, really strong competitors like Pulp Fiction and Forrest Gump.
Yeah. But I think on the long roll, yes, Pulp Fiction and Forrest Gump have got a very good following, but I still think in the general audience level, I think Shawshank Redemption has got a wider appeal.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Forrest Gump, a lot of people like, even what people would class as normies, like Pulp Fiction's got a very cult following,
Mm-hmm.
whereas I think Shawshank Redemption outclasses both of them for its longevity. And mind you,
Absolutely. And
that's due
if
to the
you
people that's
take
in it.
Forrest Gump as competition, I think Forrest Gump is one of the best Tom Hanks film there has ever been.
Yeah.
And we have tons of amazing not Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks film to
Yeah.
compare it to.
Yeah. You tell him, Wilson.
Yes, Tom Hanks always has been a steady actor. It's like you bring his name into it,
Robin.
it's always going to be guaranteed that there's a lot of people that will be watching it. From
Yep.
Toy Story to what's the Wilson one where he's the like the FedEx guy straight.
Oh God. Now you've got me. It was on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, same here.
Castaway. Castaway.
Castaway, that's the one. And Castaway has actually been reproduced in a lot of other like pop
Genres.
fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe it's actually in Andy Weir's The Martian book version, I believe it is, but it is still that I understand why he needed just someone to talk to because he was just alone.
Yeah.
Even if it was just
we've done that in the past because you remember there was one I saw years and years ago. I think it was Charlton Heston. They were on Mars, and he was a survivor, and the only thing that was with him was a monkey. And I think he had handcuffs on, electronic handcuffs, that every so often something would set him off, and he'd go like that. And the monkey had been with him that long, and he'd been talking to the monkey. Every time he does it, the monkey just goes as if it's got handcuffs because it just sees him every so often going. So the monkey would do it, and I can't remember the name of that film, but that it's so far back. There was one where someone's alone and they've got something. Maybe it's a pet, maybe it's an alien they don't understand. They just talk to, even though the person, the thing, the animal, the the alien doesn't understand them. It's just so they've got something or someone to talk to and communicate with, so they're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I think, and it goes all the way back, and it shows you even in the Shawshank Redemption. It's a case of not only the fact is you need something to keep your mind occupied, like for instance building a chess set,
Yeah.
being the scrounger as the old war movies would have, Red was the scrounger. He was the salesman. It's always something. And then it obviously turns around that, which, oh God, Andy, he
But
had
you had this
something to
going
be done.
back even to
He had something to
Robinson.
keep his mind occupied for those years he was in.
Mm.
And
And one of the things that are keeping me distracted for the moment is a recommendation from you. It's the Bobbyverse.
yes,
I mean, he's an immortal being
yeah, and there's Mrs.
having
Maybe
to
is
distract
actually
himself.
got a good point. The worst part was when Brooks committed
Sunday.
because he was brought home and it's hard for people to reintegrate into society. And which is true,
Yeah.
because to me, that was the one part, because when I was watching it, both of us were sitting watching it, I was sitting there thinking, he's going to go out and commit a crime. That's what you would expect, because he doesn't know how to survive. He like he says, he wanted to buy the gun and thing, but it's out of his system. So he had to, the only way
Well,
he could deal with it was,
you see the if we keep to the word Sunday on that bit, or self deletion, which I have heard is an appropriate word that YouTube allows. It just upped the stakes for Dufresne and Red.
Yeah.
It is like they will be let out, but once they are there, now what? I spent
exactly.
60 years in this place.
Joe, you think about it. You imagine being in a coma for 10 years. What's happened over the last 10 years? I'm not talking about, I'm not only talking about
No, I
society
understand where
changing,
you're coming from.
technology. You look at him, because he was, as he was walking down, he says, when the last time he was out, there was a car, an automobile here and there. They were a rarity. Now they were everywhere. How scary would that? Yes, he would see the trucks coming in and the trucks coming out, but it's still a rarity. It's not as if the cars are past his window and he could watch them. They were a rarity, even coming into the prison once a week or once a month or whenever.
But put it to the very modern level, like what we have today. If you got into prison 10 years ago and you were let out today and you went to a supermarket, Sainsbury's, Little, Tesco's, whatever it is, self-checkouts, they were not around 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like, and I like the Bill Burr comedic take on it. Oh, was I supposed to work today? I forgot my apron.
Yeah,
exactly. And but it is that thing, and
that's what I'm saying.
These guys here, we're talking 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Two world wars.
2 world wars, yes.
He went in, what was it, 12? He went in 1912 or 1908 or something like that, and he was in for 50 years.
He was in for a very long time, and I believe you're actually correct. He missed both world wars.
So you look at the things that changed even since the early 1900s. There was 2 wars, which means planes. Then the second war, and after that, you're talking about passenger planes, the amount of cars out there, radios. Obviously, in the prison, they would have got radios because they would have been introduced, the gramophone and stuff like that. There would be certain things, but how abundant and how much they are out there. But also the fact is the costs.
Yeah. It's early adopter technology and everything, and I'm looking with now that I'm actually thinking back on it. When I started school, I was unfortunately on the early generation, so for us there was no computer. You have to handwrite your report. It has to be pen and paper. Even though you know how to use a computer, and the teacher will always ask you how to repair your computer. That's why I'm in IT today. But no, I was of the generation that was not allowed to just type it up on a computer and print it out.
Yeah.
I had to handwrite everything.
That's what I'm saying. You had to do that, or there was the silly things like initially we weren't allowed to use calculators. When I was in school, the calculator that people tried to sneak in was the watch calculator. Remember them? And they had just come out. So basically, there's a
I
lot
had an even cheeky calculator. I believe it was from Cisco that my dad bought, and it had a slide switch on top, and you could actually put it to play music. So if you could enter the correct one, because obviously you have the C, D, E, F, G, H, C sharp and whatnot, you could actually put that in, and when you hit the enter button or the calculate button, it will play the music back.
Yeah.
But he gave me one of them, and he said, "This is perfectly normal." And then he showed me a trick that, yeah, you can actually do a lot more with this one.
Mm-hmm.
But you show the teacher you can play music on it, and they just went, "Oh, that is perfectly fine." And then I just switched it to the not scientific mode, but a similar one, which could actually store content.
So when, as Roman said, he had the watch calculator. I didn't have that. My prized possession was my calculator watch, where it was dark and you pressed the button and it lit up the time. That old. It was the first digital ones. It wasn't the ones.
Please tell me it was the dark green one.
It was the dark green one. You pressed it and there was the red lights, and they basically were square. So you had the 7 was the straight down, the 8 was two square circles, the 6 was click 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 click. It's basically, that's what it was. It was, in effect, it was, you could have done a 0, and 8 was a 0 with the cross. That was mine. I was so proud of that. Look at the fancy one.
I think you're frozen. I'm just waiting, and I know we're gonna get a bit of spam bops here, but I'm just waiting for one of the chat members to go. You type in this number, you turn it upside down, and you have boobies.
Boobies. Yeah. Yeah, I remember the calculators that did that. Yeah, but it was the thing is, that was only for us. So you look back, right, when I was at school, right, so I'm 57. So say 40 years, I was 17, right? 17, 40 years ago. What didn't I have when I had left school? There was definitely no DVDs. The TV was the big CRT TV, which is enormous. I had a wee black.
You had to be Arnold Schwarzenegger level gym rat to be able to move around those CRTs.
Yeah, and you wanted to play music. You had your big. You didn't have the decent one. You had the Walkman, but it was with the big headphones. But it was still a big chunky square. Or if you wanted to play everything, you had the radio, the twin decks, your music player, and all the equalizers, and it was still about that height. And it was
it was massive. I remember that because that was one of the.
It was as big as my tray. I just had my dinner, so it's as big as my tray. That's how big my radio was, or my hi-fi. That way, I like my tray.
I definitely need to have like an audio button or something where it's like, hey, here's another Doctor Who thing I got.
Yeah. Was it
one of the earliest entrepreneurial thing that my mum got me into was every Christmas era-ish, there was this, I would call it the pyramid scam these days.
Yeah.
But they sent out a collection of a catalog to kids and saying, hey, go around, talk to your neighbors, get them to buy this for Christmas and everything. And the more you sell, the more you can get as a reward. Yeah. I did manage to get my own cassette player back in the days. And we're talking, this must have been very late 80s, no later than 91. And I was just so proud that I had my cassette player. But even though my cassette player was actually had to be plugged into the wall, there was no battery or anything to it, I still took the cassettes out and put a pen into it and just whisked it around to rewind it. I didn't let the electricity do that for me, even though
the only reason I used to do that is because as soon as it got to the end, instead of it, you had to turn it over If you didn't want to watch Ellis at that side, you just take it out, put another one in, and then just sit there as that one was playing, so there wasn't a gap.
Yeah.
So, and it's the thing, yes, you would get halfway through a song, then you'd have to turn it over, and then you could just keep going. But if you got to the point and thought, I don't want to listen to the second side, so what I'll do is I'll just rewind it. But instead of rewinding it, you put another one in you want to listen to, and you just sit with a pen as you're listening to it, just let it spin.
Yeah,
But yeah, the fun times.
I'm just thinking that this occurred to me now. The amount of exercise we got for working with the technology rather than wasting battery lives and everything. That's probably why a lot of us was quite fit
Yeah,
in the 70s, 80s, and very early 90s because we didn't let computers or electricity do everything for us. We
yeah.
actually did it ourselves.
But that's what I'm saying. And you just look, that's just us as we grew up with the technology. We've gone from CDs and cassettes to and records. Then we've gone up to CDs and then memory sticks, MP4s. That all those are obsolete. You imagine going in when that was just coming out, and then you come out, and all of that, all the stages have disappeared, and it's the most recent. But so Brooks, that's what he's come into. He's the institutionalized part of it. It's just a case of even the fact that he was institutionalized because that's been his life for 50 years. It's just the idea that apart from anything else, which they mentioned it as he was walking to his apartment about how the cars and stuff like that. But that is just one part of it. It's the rest of the things that he missed
Yeah.
being inside, not seeing day to day. Because the TVs and stuff like that, he wouldn't have been. They would have been because they would have had a cinema. They had the occasional
They
film.
would have had cinemas and everything, yes,
I but
but
they would have had they had the
not like
occasional
a TV
movie.
in home.
They wouldn't have had. They wouldn't have known what a TV was unless he'd seen it on a movie that he'd seen in prison. And just things like that. It's just so different. The way games are
Hmm.
played, even it could have been a fan of baseball. He would listen. He might have been able to listen to it occasionally on a radio as they came out, but even the way they dressed in those 50 years had changed. The equipment they used had changed. Watching it would be like watching a completely different game. 50 years, and
But
it's just
absolutely, but there is another part there which I think is, shall we say, which reference to self-deletion. If you've been removed from society for 50 years and you're suddenly just being, well, you've done
got back in
your
it.
part, here you go, back out to society. You won't have any friends, you won't have any
Hmm.
contacts. Likelihood is that most of your cousins, aunts, aunts, uncles,
Family in
parents,
general. Uh-huh.
it would likely be gone. It would be just you. And I know that, God, I was struggling to get friends when I was in my very early teens. Today, I'm just going, it's like, hey, yeah, you're interesting enough. How you doing? But it isn't like building that deep connective
Yeah,
friendship that you have, because if you think back, the proper friends you consider are the ones you made
yeah,
before you were 20. And that's why they say things like people who matter don't mind and people who mind don't matter. It's
yeah,
because you've been with them for such a long time.
yeah,
You understand what they think, how you think.
yep. And there's another good point. But obviously, as I said, my wife could actually
Oh,
quote this movie as we were watching it. She's watched it so many times that the film exposed rehabilitation does not exist for prisoners coming out long term. Rehabilitation works to an extent, but if
yeah.
you've been in and you're institutionalized, rehabilitation means nothing because he went one route, but you
Mhm.
think about it, to get back in, he could have gone a different route. So the rehabilitation wouldn't have worked because there is how many people who have been in long term are institutionalized and just want back in, so they'll do something to get back in. and they'll do something bad to make sure they're never let out again, so they're never in that position again. So rehabilitation may work, but for people who are institutionalized, it could be counter
It
because they
doesn't
know
ever
they
work.
need to do something bad to make sure they're never out again if they don't want to be out. So it is one of those things, and it Brooks' story, because it showed you how he had the library and he had this and he had people who would chat to him,
He
look up
even
to
had
him
a
and
pet,
go,
didn't he?
and if they wanted a book, they would be nice to him and maybe give him a wee something. So he had a bit of respect, and then he effectively got thrown out. That's it, you're gone, bye bye. And it's wow.
Yeah.
See, my wife's obviously very perceptive. I was trying to convince her to come on, but she said no, and I don't blame her, especially with me, because I'm a sarky get even on here, and I've been sarkier. So I do apologise, Mrs. Maybe. But no, it's. I think this movie shows things that for the movie, obviously, it's based on a true story, but obviously things were exaggerated. However, it did show things that we have learned were true. Like, for instance, the brutality of the guards, but not every guard, because you saw asking for advice, and then other people started abusing that advice and abusing the privileges because they know they could. But
But
there was the
it
other
also
ones.
has to be placed in the time, the
Yeah, but
era that is actually being portrayed, because we have similar stories here in UK where the police force are out of control, brutal,
mhm.
but it's because they need to know, they need to put down the law, just like Judge Dredd. And it's like,
I was
there
thinking
is
that
no
as soon as you said it.
mistaking. There's no mistaking. We are the police. When we come
Mhm.
around, you listen or it will
Oh,
hurt.
do you know what I was thinking? Do you know what I was thinking? Remember my Build-A-Bear? I would love to get a Judge Dredd outfit for my Build-A-Bear. Wouldn't that be a cool outfit for him? It ain't going to
Oh,
happen
yeah.
because I cannot imagine 2000 AD licensing Build-A-Bear to build an outfit. And I can't sew, so I'll need to find somebody who can design stuff like that and get them to build me a Build-A-Bear. That would be a cool outfit for my Build-A-Bear for Junior. By the way, my bear's called Junior, just so you're aware.
Oh, isn't there one of the judges that actually have like a pet sitting on his shoulder armor piece?
No, that's basically
Instead of an eagle,
it,
there is actually I think
that
it's a bad guy.
it's Judge Death. It's it's like a skeleton eagle, but in effect,
But
that's what it looks like.
technically, then you would be sort of within canon if you had a Build-A-Bear Judge Dredd and you cosplayed Judge Dredd or Judge PJ.
Uh-huh. But it's just the idea that I was thinking, wouldn't that be a great Build-A-Bear outfit? And I thought, I wish. But that was a sidetrack. That's a complete sidetrack. It was only because you mentioned Judge Dredd. I thought, aye, that's what I was going to say in Saturday, but forgot. But I suppose,
Yeah, I think we went on the squirrel there. We
yeah,
had a good piece going on
yeah,
already.
definitely. But like the Shawshank Redemption, right, look at the look at the back, right? I've done a Judge Dredd, so I have been a judge, so I have in that one. So Darius, I will show the picture maybe Saturday. But the way it started, right, based on the movie, right? Obviously, I haven't read extra into it. My wife's read up the story about how it was made and what it was based on and stuff like that. However, the how it started, did anybody think he was actually innocent? Because you think about it, the way it started,
Yes,
they showed
because
him
everybody
they
is
showed him with the
innocent in here, didn't you know?
but it's the fact is they showed him loading his gun, sitting drinking, getting out his car, and then just standing there. They didn't show him. Then they maybe showed him. Whereas they told it, so you're telling me you just drove up there. There's the bullets with your fingerprints on all was scattered with the bottle, which your fingerprints on all scattered. and you just got back in your car and drove away, yet the same type of bullets that you had in your gun were the ones that killed him. And we can't find your gun to check to see if you fired it because you threw it away. How can so it was implying that he could have been either guilty or innocent. So you didn't know if he was guilty or innocent at the beginning. So in that respect, it wasn't a case of, oh, an innocent man gets thrown into jail. But and then when it's a case of I'm innocent, didn't you know? And then it's everybody's in here's innocent. So it still leads to the fact is he's been in 19 years and he's accepted it. Whereas then you hear about this guy who was talking about that, and it's basically implying that it was his girlfriend. What did that guy do it 2 years ago, or did he do it 19 years ago? Is it just coincidental the person that the young Elvis was talking about was the same guy? Do you see what I mean? So it sort of suggested that he's probably innocent. However, you didn't really know for 100% if he was. And that was a good way the story did, because it still left you with the is he or isn't he? So were you meant to actually think, oh, he beat the justice system, or he screwed over the justice system because they screwed him over? And you understand why he screwed over the warden and the prison warden. I think the dogs have actually jumped in the top of the keyboard. The two dogs are screwing my wife, and they're obviously jumping all over her. So I think the dogs have been jumping the keyboard. So that's why we got the disease and Bruton deathbed. But you know why he screwed over the judge, the warden, and the chief warden, because of what they did in the story. However, did he escape just because he wanted to screw them over, or did he escape to become free because he thought, I am not guilty and they're not going to let me out? Or
there are so many different layers there, but
yes,
if you watch the film as it is, you're left very uncertain. But if you start picking up on the clues that are being left behind,
yeah,
it's highly unlikely that Dufresne did kill his wife
yeah,
and her boyfriend,
yeah,
because he's not drinking. He's never drinking throughout the entire thing, and it's supposed to say that he was drinking heavily.
yeah,
And the implication, there was multiple bottles. If someone is not a drinker, shall we say like critical drinker, if you're having half a bottle of whiskey, you're knocked out. You're
yeah.
probably
But
puking on
I
the
took it the
floor.
other way. I took it the other way, that it was because he was drunk and he left, and it nearly got him into trouble, which effectively did. That's why he doesn't drink anymore. It was not a case of
Well,
I was.
there are
See, the thing
other.
is, it didn't imply. It didn't mention that he wasn't a drinker before. It showed you him drunk at the beginning of the movie, and then afterwards, I don't drink. So is it I don't drink because this happened,
But
or
there are other pieces of evidence. So he's getting chased by, shall we say, the fancy boys in the laundry room.
yeah,
Initially, he doesn't fight back, which shows that he's not a violent person. But he
uh-huh.
has to learn how to become a violent person to fend them off. But
Yes,
in the end, and this is a third piece of evidence, he's using his brain to overcome these bullies, so to speak. And there are plenty of breadcrumbs going along showing that the character that would have shot his wife, it's not the character that he is. Yes, he could have been drunk, and yes, I'm leaving like the 5% left that yes, he might have been the one doing this. But if you follow his character arc for he's in prison for about 25 years, and you get to know him throughout that time, that character arc, if someone does him wrong, he would not do them harm back. He would just walk away. He would not confront them, which is opposite towards someone that would take such a drastic decision. And I'm a firm believer, as someone that sometimes gets a little bit stupidly drunk, alcohol doesn't release inhibitions. Alcohol just lets you be more of who you are as your main character. And I've never committed a crime in my life. I've never done anything violently or anything badly in such a state, drunk or not drunk. I just think the alcohol just enhances the person you are. If you're very friendly and bubbly, you will get enhanced friendly and bubbly. Likewise, 19 years before he escapes. Yeah. It's almost 2 decades. Yeah.
Roman.
That's a Monday morning for me, Roman. No, definitely not. I do have certain rules, and there is. I don't drink on the job, even if there is like a job night out or something like that. It's soft drinks and all that stuff. If I want to get tipsy, it's a weekend or it's a holiday.
Yeah, or it's a Let's Talk Geeky stream.
Yes.
Did somebody fall asleep on Saturday, per chance?
Technically, I have to admit that I did, because instead of shutting down the tab and everything, all I did was just shut off the monitor, and I went to sleep. And I woke up in the morning like 5:30, when it's like, I'm still on the stream. What did I do?
But as we were shutting off, we were sitting there thinking, Jim, hello. So, and I know at 12:10, you were still logged into it, so we didn't know, because we had all got to
Oh no, I was still logged in at 5:30 in the morning, and I even had the message in the chat box, and I forgot to send it, and I was just like, okay, I'm logging off now, guys. Have a great evening. And I didn't even push enter. It was like, I typed a message, shut off the monitor, and went off to bed.
But it's one of those things. It's not a problem. Look, it happened to me the last time when I got a power cut. If I couldn't get back on, the stream was going forever, because nobody could switch it off except me. So I had to get back in. But there you go. Mrs. Maybe. I agree. The film gives the impression at the beginning he killed his wife and lover. But she agrees with Jim that there's clues to show his innocence.
Yeah. The breadcrumbs is, but this is where I think it might actually play a bit to, there is rehabilitation to paying for your crime. The Dufresne that went out of a prison, snuck out, whatever you want to call it, 19 years later, would not be the same Dufresne that may or may not have killed his wife and her lover. Because 20 years is a really long time. Heck, I'm not even the same person I was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting thing.
Yeah. And Roman's right as well. Institutionalised, not necessarily a prison issue. Because coming out of military, 30 years particular, I suppose it's coming out of an institution, as it's called, an institution. You could come out of, if you've been in hospital since you were a kid, because you need it, and then suddenly you've been cured. You're coming out of a routine that you've had day in, day out for X amount of years, and then suddenly into the wide world where that has gone. So the military, prison, it could be anything, hospital or something like that.
But it is even something
in a coma for 5-10 years and wake up, and then suddenly they have to go through the rehabilitation. They get their body working, and then they realise that for first 5 years they were in a coma, and the next 2 years they're in hospital, and then suddenly they're out. some people just can't even handle being in a short term, and suddenly things change.
But I've seen that so much because today is all the fancy thing of, hey, let's get young people interested in IT technology and everything. And I see it so much that they've only been in school or school institutions for, shall we say, 9 to 12 years. Obviously, more formative years, but they're so afraid to step into work life from school life.
Well, I went from school to secondary school. I did a couple of years working there. I decided I didn't like it. I'm going back to college. So I went to college. Then I went to university. Then I went to work in a university. Then I went to work in another university. Then I went and then I mean, so I was in a university environment or a learning environment, except 2 years from when I was 5 right up until I was about 20. Actually, till I was about 35. So 30 years I was in an education environment. And that was a scary thing to come out thinking, well, I'm used to students in a teacher environment. I'm going out to a place where it's bosses and staff. Could have been scary. Whereas it didn't really bother me, but it could have been. And I can understand why people who, when they've gone from school, primary school, secondary school, or well, I can't remember what it's classed in the States. So is it junior and then senior, and then going to a college and then a university? So that's in an education environment up until they're in their 20s. So it could be 15 years in an education environment, and then somebody says, "Right, go out and get a job," and they don't feel comfortable getting their first job. But
I would say that it is probably the lightest set of, shall we say, institutionalization.
And that's what the thing he says. He says he was never a crook until he went to prison. Which there's been a lot of. I've heard that in a lot of different types of movies. That they weren't a crook until they actually went to prison, and they learned how to be a crook because it was expected of them. And then this one,
there is another one where I like this that statement that she just said. I'm assuming it's a she. I'm not assuming your gender, but a Mrs. would assume a certain kind of characteristics.
My wife is a she.
Yeah. Well, there is the Prison Break TV show. I've only watched the first season, and I think it's quite clever. Because it's clearly a really clever individual. And he's never, ever not where he doesn't want to be, because he's already planned the steps so many pieces far ahead. This is someone that would be comfortable with, hey, environment change, new variables comes in, I have to do this, I have to do that. But I don't think most people ever would be in such a situation.
There you go, Darius. That's my Judge Dredd outfit.
I am the law.
And so it is.
Hey, Batman is a short ass.
That's a Scottish Batman. It's a slightly different one.
Of course, he's a Scottish Batman.
So there's my Judge Dredd outfit. The Book of the Law for the judges. So, my wife would like to laugh at me. So there you go. You can laugh. So, but yeah, I do like the Shawshank Redemption. It's definitely one of my wife's favourites, but it is one that you can watch over and over and over again. And it's because it digs. The more you watch it, the more you realise that there is layers to it. Like for instance, as I said, if you don't pick up the subtlety of certain things, then is he guilty? Is he not? I don't know. Or that bad thing happened to him. 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 He escaped, and he dropped those two in it. So he got away. He he didn't get away with it because he spent time in prison. So him getting away was recompense for what they did to him, and he got his own back in him. So was he guilty or innocent at the end? Did it matter? But in the eyes of the law, he's still guilty, and he escaped from prison. However, for the viewer, did it matter? No, because he served his time. Things happened to him, and it's not like he was in jail for a year and then he escaped. I think because he was in such a long term, and it showed what happened with Red, constantly getting his parole turned down for no reasons, because he kept saying the same things every time he went up for parole. He would say the same word for word, and the time he didn't is when he basically just went, a lot. He's don't want me to say it. The rehabilitation means nothing, and it's this and it's that. Am I sorry? Would I tell him how stupid he was? Of course I would, but I'm a different person, so I'm not that stupid boy that did this. So am I rehabilitated? Rehabilitated is just a word that you use to make yourself feel good.
It is so clearly displayed how wrong it's being treated there. It's like
but that's what I'm saying.
he's showing remorse. He's showing everything that needs to be there, but
they still go.
They are looking for exact words to be said. They're very bureaucratic.
Yeah.
If he doesn't say these exact words,
right, but you take it into account, right? Just that's what I'm saying. If you take the fact is you don't know if Andy committed the murder at the beginning or not. You don't pick anything he said inside is just to say I'm innocent, I'm innocent. So everything he says still implies he's innocent all the way through. Even if he's guilty or innocent, it makes no difference. But you take everything, like for instance, we're all innocent in here. So anything he says, he's not going to imply he's guilty. And then he hears the story and he thought, oh, that'll get me out. But even if that guy, because he was in 19 years before the Elvis guy came in, right?
Gil Bellows, I believe the actor is.
Yeah. So, but the fact is, he was telling him about another guy he shared the cell with. But did that happen 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or 19 years ago when he ended up in prison? So in effect, over the 20 years did this guy kill somebody, and they didn't know the time he was talking about. He was just talking about somebody he murdered and their girlfriend, and this guy was Andy. You don't know because there was no city mention, nothing. It was just a case of he got away with it. So, but what I'm saying is, because he escaped after the brutalization that happened in prison and the brutalization and abuse by the warden and the guard, then the fact
Clancy Brown.
Clancy Brown is great in it. Clancy
I
Brown is good
love him in
everything,
like, even up to Starship Troopers and all that.
Yeah, I loved him in Starship Troopers, but he's really good in anything. He just plays that type of part very, very well. But it was the fact is, you see him getting brutalized, you see him getting abused, you see him everything that happens, and what the prison wardens and the guards are willing to do to keep their money making coming in by killing someone. But by the end of it, even if he is guilty and someone's watching the movie thinks, but he did do it because it leaves it open. But he did do it, and you think anything he said is just been but I'm innocent excuse because thingy. So people are still happy that he got away because he's not as if he didn't pay for his time, because he was in for 19 years before he started, and then he basically was abused, he was beaten up, he was literally just taken advantage of. So even if people thought he was guilty, the fact that he spent so much time in jail and what happened to him, the fact that he escaped, people are actually thinking, yeah, he deserves to get away. And that's the way I think the movie works.
I'm just cutting it really super short there. If you're crawling half a mile in a sewage drainage pipe from a prison with hundreds of
I'm just
inmates,
glad there wasn't
you
actually a bar.
deserve freedom.
I'm just glad there wasn't a gate or a something at any point down that pipe.
Oh, he had the patience. He would have removed them and everything, but come on, half a mile of his sewage drainage pipe, crawling through it literally inch by inch.
Yeah, but you imagine getting to the end and there's a bar and he can't get out. By the time he would have actually cut through it, they would have actually found him because the next morning they were out looking for him, but he'd actually got me. But what I'm saying is the movie did it so well that if you think he's guilty or if you think he's innocent, by the end of it, it didn't matter because of
It
all
didn't
the things that
matter.
happened. How long he'd served in jail and all the things that happened to him in jail, people thought it was a good ending because he got free.
Well,
And
at the
Red
end of
got
the
free.
film, no matter your initial beliefs, Andy Dufresne, Tim Robinson's character, is a good character.
Yeah.
There is no denying it. He is a good character, just as Red is. But
Yeah.
Red is already a good character by the time Dufresne meets him. Even in the very early stage. Yes, he's a hustler. He can get stuff done. He can get things for you.
Yeah.
He's still a good person. There's no doubt about that. They're good individuals.
Yeah.
They may have committed a crime, but now when we meet them in the story, they are good people.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But even if you look at it and think he is the murderer at the beginning, by the end of it, you don't care if he's murdered her because A, he's spent 20 years in prison, plus he's been beaten up, he's been abused, and he's been taken advantage of by the system to the point where it doesn't matter what he does, he basically deserves to get out. So if you take either way, at the end, it's still a good story because it's a feel good story that no matter what you think throughout that movie, it's a happy ending because you think he deserves to be free. And it doesn't matter if you thought he'd committed the murder because after 20 years in the abuse, he got free and he got their money.
So if I drag you back to the year this was released, so it's 1994, 1995.
Yeah.
The other two films that overshadow this, and I have a feeling you're on kind of the same page that I am. Pulp Fiction was okay, it was interesting, but it wouldn't really have piqued my interest too much. But
Pulp
Pulp
Fiction
Fiction,
was okay. I think Forrest Gump was probably the one at the time I was more interested
exactly.
in.
That was where I was going. Is like Pulp Fiction did a lot of things in one way. Forrest Gump, holy crap, it is on par with Shawshank Redemption, but I think Shawshank Redemption is better.
Yeah.
But basically, it is like a photo finish, like horse race. It's like a photo finish. Which one is better? But I think Shawshank Redemption stands out
I
more.
think in the short term, Forrest Gump was better. I think in a long term rewatchability, Shawshank Redemption is far superior because after about 2 or 3 or 4 sittings of watching Forrest Gump, you can sit back and just think, that was quite nice, and you can switch off, do things as it's on the TV, not a problem. Whereas if Shawshank Redemption comes on, you want to sit down and watch it to see if you've missed anything, to see if anything it changes your thing because you know what's happening. But I didn't pick that word up. I didn't realise he said that. Maybe that changes how he was, and it's that type of thing because it's such a good story that there's certain parts. If you hear somebody saying something like, for instance, I was never a crook until I came into prison. Wait a minute, that changes. The fact is, does that mean he never did anything dishonest until he killed his wife and liver, or he never did anything until he got into prison? Do you see what I mean? It's one of those ones, so that changes that, and then maybe he was straight arrow until that point, or is the alcohol that did it, and that's why he doesn't drink now, because the alcohol made him be the person he didn't want to be and killed his wife. So he now no longer drinks because it makes him a bad person. It's that type of thing. So you can go around and say he doesn't drink because he never drank, or does he not drink because when he did drink, he murdered his wife and lover and he dropped himself in it. So now he no longer takes a drink. There's so many subtleties you can read into it, but the more you watch it, the more those subtleties go, and you understand it more and more and more. So that's why I think The Shawshank Redemption is a better movie, because you can re-watch it multiple times, and it helps define the story a bit better each time, based on
Absolutely, but
what
I
how
think
you're viewing it.
the opening scene where he's have multiple bottles in his T4 or whatever it is,
Yeah,
I think it's a
but
bit
did
of a
he
red
buy them?
herring.
But that's the thing. Did he go and buy them? But you think about it, right? I enjoy a drink, but I don't drink a lot, and I don't drink in the house. Well, have the occasional beer, maybe when having a barbecue. However, if I took a bottle of Jack Daniels, which I know in the past that I've had a bottle or two and a good few beers, I don't forget. I basically I could wake up on the Monday and think, what the hell have I done? Don't know. And then people fill in the gaps. But doesn't mean that I haven't drank before I had those bottles and flaked out. You see what I mean? So I think that was a red herring, because just because you saw him drunk, you saw him drunk for a reason. He was trying to, the alcohol was trying to numb his pain of his wife walking out on him. So if he drank before, it's no mention, so it's irrelevant. But the fact that he mentions he doesn't drink, is that because it was when he got drunk, he did the bad thing, so that's why he doesn't do it anymore?
It's a
But,
good perspective to the way I see it.
eh, um, did I get something wrong? I says on first watch, Forrest Gump was a better film than The Shawshank. However, on the long thing, Shawshank is better. I think I said that. I'm getting corrected for something I can't remember saying. Initially, Forrest Gump was a better movie because it was a more humorous movie. Shawshank was very serious. In the long term, I think The Shawshank's a far better movie than Forrest Gump. That's what I said, wife. I think, but I'm willing to be stand corrected again. But I thought I'd said that, so I do apologise, ladles and jelly spoons and wives out there. I can't. I need to watch what I'm saying tonight. This is terrible.
Well,
But
the chat is always keeping us honest, but
yeah, tonight is
e-
very
e-
honest.
e- even so, Forrest Gump is a very rewatchable film.
It is a rewatchable, but I think that I've watched Forrest Gump probably about the same amount of time, as I've watched The Shawshank Redemption. But what one could, if somebody says to me, take one of the two to watch again, depends on the mood. If I want a movie on, it can be on in the background, and if I miss a wee bit and piece, it's not a major issue, because Forrest Gump is not to me, a high drama that you need to pay attention. It's a good, interesting one, because you've got the Black Panthers, you've got Nixon, you've got Vietnam, you've got the ping pong tournament, you've got the thing, Summer of
It's the
Love.
weaving into American
Yes,
history that I
exactly.
really
So
like
it's
about
basically
it.
it's flipping through that, and it's building a story up through it, and then you've got the bits and pieces all of the characters coming in and stuff like that. But for it, Forrest Gump, if I was wanting to sit and watch a movie, if I'm wanting to actually sit and watch a movie, I would pick Shawshank Redemption every time, because it's a movie. It's not one you have to minutely listen to and watch every bit of it, but it's a movie you need to sit and watch and then enjoy and take in. And because you can take it in, even the
Oh,
abuse
you
part.
you're just trying to get the spoilers out of me when we come to the rating and what was the best and what was the
Aye.
worst.
Well, I do apologise. Accordingly, no, I didn't say that.
Ah, you didn't.
No, I didn't. But there you go. But the thing is, I think the Shawshank Redemption on the long term is a far superior movie. But for a first watch movie, I think Forrest Gump would get one hands down because it's not as deep. So if you get a family, say, like just say a couple going in to watch it, Forrest Gump, both of them would probably come out and say, "Yeah, that was really good. I quite enjoyed that." But if you said about Shawshank Redemption, you might get one of them going, "That was really good. I enjoyed that." The other one was thought, "Well, I don't know. I would need to see it again." To me, shows the difference. Whereas I could come out of Forrest Gump and think, that was quite good. I could enjoy it. Would you go again? Well, I don't need to. I've seen it. Whereas the Shawshank Redemption, well, I don't know. I would need to see. And then if I was asked, would you go again? I would need to because I want to actually understand it a bit better. So to me, it shows the difference in the movies. One is a quick hit and leaves a good feeling. The other one is one you can watch multiple times and really
And you
enjoy.
you get new things
Yeah.
from it. So yeah, have a good evening, Roman, and enjoy your lurk mode. And
Yeah, definitely.
bye.
And I'll see you Friday and see you both on Saturday. It's true. Saturday as well. Yep.
Yep.
So,
But
but that's what I'm saying.
it comes with so many different things, and
It does.
the one thing that really surprised me, and I discovered this only a couple of years ago, Shawshank Redemption is the top 250 films on IMDb throughout all times, has 2.4 million voters giving
Yeah.
the rating, and it is top ranked. I don't care about critics. I haven't cared about critics for about 30 years now
Yeah.
because they have their arch, they have their background, they have their specific liking. Some may like something that audience really love, but their taste, their trajectory is completely apart from that. So other films they go as like, oh, this was rubbish, but the audience super love it. So this is where I think IMDb is a good taste test for it. And
Yeah.
if you look at just like the top 10 of the IMDb top 250 films,
Yeah.
those films are really well made. They're crafted with story, visuals, all of that. But you will notice in the top 10, there is very,
Yeah.
very little CGI.
Yeah. And there's a good point my wife makes, which I have to 100% say this is what made the film far superior to any of the other ones in the long run was she said I could watch the Shawshank over and over, and the thing I like about it is how the character Red narrates the story from his perspective. And I think that's how it works better because you sometimes get ones where you get as the Cockney Spock says, the narrator, the what is it,
The narrator is the same person as the hero.
no, the oh, what's the Cockney Spock's definition? Is it the untrustworthy narrator or something like that? So you're getting a narrator telling you things that he shouldn't know, whereas this is Red telling his story about Andy. You see the bit about the beginning about why Andy ended up there, but it
Yeah,
basically
he
starts
was a
when
new
he
boy.
comes
He
into
was a
the prison.
fresh boy.
So it's all Red's perception of what
Yeah.
happened. So the first part of it, the story, in effect, is what the Cockney Spock says is Red should not have known about that. And I'm trying to remember what the full definition he uses. it's not really untrustworthy narrator. It's a trope. I can't remember. And I'm sorry, Captain, if you're watching
It's
this.
kind of like the Deus Ex Machina, where the writer has painted themselves into a corner,
Yeah.
and they just have to figure out a mechanism that doesn't exist, and suddenly they survive.
Yeah. What they should have done, to me, because the way they actually did the movie and it worked, I think if they didn't show what happened prior to him turning up to the prison, and then they did his flashbacks as him telling the story of, like, he maybe read saying what happened in your trial, then he basically explains, "Oh, well, I did this and they did this and they said this," and then so they could, as
I think that would have counteracted it. Don't you know everybody here is innocent?
said yes, but they could still talk about why did you get found guilty because of this, and so they could have given you that back as him telling Reddy's story as really good friends of what happened. He could still say, "I didn't do it and that I got drunk and that's what happened." So he could still imply that I'm innocent. I just got railroaded because of that. However, it wouldn't actually negate the fact that he's saying he's innocent, because he's saying that up until he got drunk. But that doesn't mean anything, because you don't know at that point if he did it or not. What I'm saying is, I think it's starting him coming in from Red narrating his story the very first time he meets him. Whereas you've already started the movie and then you meet him and then Red's telling the story. I think if it had actually started with the car driving in and Red telling his story, and then throughout that, it sort of, as the two of them get to know each other and he maybe talks to him about his trial, it doesn't say, "I'm innocent, I didn't do it," because he's saying effectively, "I got drunk, I was going to do it, and I ended up I sort of went, oh, what am I doing? I drove away and threw the gun. But the judge, because of this happened, this happened, this happened, I got found guilty, but I'm innocent." So it wouldn't have changed anything, because it's still the exact same launching off point. But I think if they'd started it from Red first meeting him, and then this happened, so you don't know if he's innocent or guilty until he tells us Red's story. And then you still might not know, but there's other things throughout you still hear. It's just changing that one wee bit. That's what I would have done. I would have just taken that first part and moved it somewhere in the middle. So as he gets friendly with Ed, he just tells what happened, and he's still innocent. According to
Now
his
you're
story,
sort of
he's still innocent.
nitpicking on the real review scoring part here. I
No,
will
but
have to say that, but
yeah,
I get
that's
where
what I'm
you're
saying.
coming from.
I'm just saying that the movie still worked, but just because of that one wee bit, I would have still left it in, but the only difference is, instead of making it the beginning of the movie, made it halfway through the movie when he gets sting me, because we're all innocent in here, and they say, "How did you end up here?" And they could tell him, and I didn't do it, and I drove away, but all the evidence was still pointing to me because somebody did do it. And it still leaves the ambiguity, except for the bits as he's talking throughout the story about never was a crook, I don't drink, and you see what I mean? It's just not taking it out, just shifting it a wee bit, so you don't know from the beginning what happened and why he's in there, except what Red tells you, and because it's Red's story. So I think it still works.
Which is what's adding to me thinking Dufresne is even more innocent, because it's Red telling the story.
Mhm.
It's nobody else telling the story. It's Red telling his perception of his very great friend. And okay,
Mhm.
you have to take a pinch of salt there, because they're great friends. They're not just good friends, they're great friends.
Mhm. But that's what I'm saying. It's one of those things that Morgan Freeman voiceover is just superb. You know what I mean?
You can't go wrong with that.
Oh God,
There is
no.
only one that beats Morgan
Christ,
Freeman.
eh,
That's James Earl Jones.
in all fairness, if you want a movie, take a crappy movie from the last 5, 10 years, let's say Captain Marvel, and then you have Morgan Freeman or James Earl Jones voice over it and telling the story, and as the visuals are all happening in bits and pieces, I would improve that movie 150%, just because one of the two would be doing the voiceover and the explaining the story as you're going along, wouldn't it? As somebody says once in Robocop, I buy that for $1. But it's one of those things. His voice.
Oh, you just had me to just as I was running away from the microphone for a couple of seconds. There's a Twitter account, and I don't know how you trigger the bot, but if you mention something from Robocop, he will tweet back at you, say, I'll buy that for $1.
I think you have to tag or hashtag Robocop or something like that. So it's mapped against the trend. That's how it does. There you go. See,
it was good because I discovered it just by accident, but it was just fun that it's someone that built it out there. So if you do mention something from Robocop, and I don't even think I hashtagged it, I just vaguely referenced an incident or something happening in the original Robocop, and it picked up on that and said, I'll buy that for $1.
Yeah, I don't know how it does it, because I thought it would be to do with the tagging or something like that, so it can pick up certain things, but otherwise it has to be somebody's noted it and bumped it to them or something like that. But there you go. Andy didn't really push the fact that he was innocent until after the prisoners told him who the real criminal was, and that's when
that is a very accurate spot, Mrs. Maybe. Because he isn't stepping into the role of being more secure. And I think this is part and parcel of... he has now been in prison for such a long time that the new kids on the block, so to speak, not getting them to cause him trouble, he has to step into that mythic persona that, yes, he has a reason because he's been here for 10 years now. There must be a reason that he is here. So that's why he's leaning into that. Because no matter how you twist and turn it, Andy Dufresne is a very clever individual. That's why he gets all of these things that drives the entire film.
Yes, it's definitely... It pitches him as a very intelligent man. And throughout it, nobody actually dies, even the warden, even because he's a hard-working, intelligent man. So, like for instance, I'll send him a letter every once a week until he gets what he wants. Oh, really? I got what I want. Now I'll send him 2 letters a week so how many years was it? 6 years sending 1 letter a week. Please stop sending his letters. So he sent him 2 letters a week until he got what he wanted. Eventually, they just went, "Oh, all right, shut him up and give him what he wants, because he'll just keep sending his letters. And because he sent his letters, we have to read them." It exposed the corrupt prison governors who were only interested in their own gains, tax corruption. And it was, and as I said, that the American prison system, unlike the British, which has still got its points, it's financed by the government, the taxpayer. So, whereas the states, I think majority of them, I can't say all of them, I don't know, are private prisons, which means they gain money from the government for locking prisoners up. So they have no incentive to let a prisoner away early, because they get the money. And if that prisoner can gain them money, there's less incentive to let them out. So Red, why didn't they let Red out? Because he said all the right things in all the parole hearings. But how much was the prison getting per year for Red, who didn't cause problems? Do you know what I mean? So that's the way I was looking at it. It's not necessarily the parole board was just, they didn't like him for whatever. There's just a case of, well, he said all the right things. However, he doesn't cause problems. So if we actually keep him in for another year, we'll get another 30,000 at the time, maybe, per year for keeping a prisoner in jail. So it's a prison that's not going to cause any problems, and all they need to do is feed him. and clothe him. And he can do things that can gain us money. So, are we going to let him out? No, because he makes money for us. Eventually, we might have to let him out, but as long as he's making money for us by the government paying us to keep him and him being able to go out and do things that we get paid for, where's the incentive for paroling someone? Hence the reason why I think it's to do with that, because they were private prisons, and that's where the corruption starts. But that's just how I saw it. There's also the corruption as soon as you give somebody power over people, that they'll just basically start lining their own pockets. Did you remember that experiment they did? They just took a load. I think it was students. They took a load of students, something like 20 of them,
Students, yeah,
and they
they
split
put
them in
half
half
of them as prisoner, half
prisoners,
of them as wards.
and they gave them no rules. Just basically says, use your prisoners. There's your cell, and use your guards. And then within a week, the guards were starting to bully the prisoners, and the prisoners started to accept it. And yet nobody gave them rules of what they're allowed and not allowed to do. And both groups started accepting it. So the ones who were the prisoners started being bullies. The ones that were the ones that the guards started being bullies. The ones that were the prisoners started being accepting of the roles they're in. They might have bullied other prisoners, but they never stood up to the guards, even though they were on the same level.
There was a cartoon strip I saw. This must have been quarter of a century ago. It's probably easier to describe it that way, but it's essentially it's an employee being kicked by his boss.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, why didn't you deliver this? Rah, 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 rah. It's like a lot of harassment coming down on that employee. He comes home to his wife, and he's in a bad mood because he has been under a lot of pressure for that stuff. He's unleashing on his wife. His wife is unleashing on their kids. So therefore, the kids are growing up.
And the dog bites the boss, who gets mad, and
Yeah, and it goes around in a circle. But no, I definitely agree with that. But I also have to see it from historical perspective. And we tend to forgive and forget it today. You don't have to be cruel. You don't have to be mean. But every time I see a police officer these days yanking one of these climate protesters that have glued them to asphalt, just ripping them out, and they go, it's like, oh, my hand, it hurts. It's like, you're an idiot.
Yeah,
you're an absolute idiot. You've done a stupid thing, and this is an autocorrection. This is an abuse. This isn't hierarchical abuse. This is just someone going, you've done a stupid thing. I will show you how stupid it is, and it may cause you pain. Hopefully it won't, but it is very likely to cause you pain because you glued yourself to the asphalt of a freeway.
You're on the Darwin Award.
Yes, you're on the Darwin Award list.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's just because I remember that's the study, and people me so it did show that the people in authority start becoming abusive. It's the same as the politicians. A lot of people get into politics, maybe get in for the right reason, but as soon as they're in the swamp and they say, "Oh, but you can claim this, and you can claim that, and you can claim this, and you can claim that," and they turn around and say, "I get in to do this," you can still do that. But if you claim this and you claim that, you can still get that tax free and that tax free. They go, "Aye, okay then." And as soon as they start doing that, you look at was it the mayor of Glasgow? She would actually everything. She would claim back her underwear, her socks, her tights. She would claim her money back for all that.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. And then there was
was she actually from Scotland? I thought it was actually England one. that was reclaiming for underwear to go to Parliament. She was reclaiming for underwear to go to Parliament. I was just going like, really?
And you look at that, the politician in Westminster, he claimed for charitable donations, and once he put 2 pence in a someone's tin, and he claimed it back. 2 pence, and he claimed it back. That's how ridiculous it is, because that's someone who's in going, money, I can actually get you to pay for everything because you owe me. Not I'm here to serve. You owe me, give me money. And as soon as you're in there,
if you put 2 pennies into a charity tin, I think you're a cheapskate just to begin with.
Yeah.
But if you're then reclaiming and refunding those 2 pennies, it's like you should be shot on the side.
That shows you how corrupt these politicians are. One's claiming underwear back. We might get, if you're in a job that gives you your outfit and pays you to purchase particular outfit, so you need to wear particular trousers, particular shirts, and they give you an allocation for it, and then you start claiming your underwear to go to work, and if they go, no, that you have to buy underwear for yourself anyway. Whereas a politician goes up and says, but I need it because, no, you do not need it any more than I need a suit if I'm going into work.
But first and foremost, I do not condone the violence that anyone should be shot. But if you're that much of a cheapskate that you're donating to charity and then you're asking taxpayers to give you the money back, you're not a nice individual. But
the fact is, they have to claim it, so which means they're writing on the thing, mate, and somebody's not coming in and going, really? 2 pence you gave to charity? Not only are you putting it down, but you're also claiming it back.
Yeah, that is a sign that you're no good person. But I do agree with you on the other end. A lot of people go into politics desiring change and everything, and I did have that back in the early 90s when I could first start voting, because there was some stupid IT laws coming into place. And there was one person standing up and going, this will never happen. And it was voting season and everything. And it was like, okay, I don't agree with your party's politics, but you seem to have your head screwed on tight as like the right way and everything. So I thought, but screw it. I'm giving them the vote. Yeah. Just 3 weeks after they have got the power, there was a 180 turn. It's like, no, we're going to let this law come through. I was like, hang on, I just voted for you to not make the law come through. And then they turn around and just, I'm going to let it through anyway. No explanation, no reason. But it was explicitly part of the campaign. And I hate it by that. But when it comes to these whole thing of political promises and everything, that is what Warden Gunton at this prison, who was driving it, because he was aiming to become governor of, it's not Ohio, it's Maine or wherever it was.
Yeah.
But the story is he's vying to become this governor or whatever it is. That's what he's hoping. That's why he's laundering so much money so that he can fund his campaign and all of those things. And obviously, we can see throughout the film that, yes, he has to give a little to Dufresne because he's so insistent. Like the letter campaign, he's sending 1 letter a week constantly, annoying them completely. Oh, hey, look, we have a fantastic guest on now.
Yeah, buddy, bud.
They still look really well trimmed. Haven't they grown the hair? Or did you trim them so recently?
No. They got trimmed a few weeks ago.
So. Yeah, okay. Still look amazing.
I just wanted to
But
see who was on.
hey there. Well, I know you can't see me, but you should see a bulbing thing around a weird looking Viking picture. but it is that whole political pressure. And like you said, prisons, even the government run ones,
Uh-huh.
they're not there to just cost money. They're there to make profit.
Yeah.
If you're a well-behaved prisoner, why should they let you out? Because you're causing no problem. You're well on your way to rehabilitation, which is a thing that governments never do. And
Yeah, because they don't want to rehabilitate. They want more people in because it gets them more money.
Exactly. So, say for someone like Red,
Yeah.
£25,000 a year, but you get paid £35,000 a year. He has his food, he has his clothing, bed, bunk, toilets, training facilities. Why release him?
Yep. And that's what it is. It just goes to show if you've got no incentive, as in if it's a government run one, so the people are in and you're paying from your tax or tax pounds, we'll say the UK tax pounds, and if someone's in, you're paying £30,000 a year. We'll just say 30,000 because I don't know how much it is. £30,000 a year
Neither do I.
to to keep them in. Then if you release them, then you're saving that 30,000. Because if somebody else goes in, that's another 30,000 top. So if you've released one, and if you've got that many in, you need to build another prison, which is more money you're putting in. Whereas in an economy where it's all run by the US is the one I know, and there is other ones around the world, and I don't know if they're all owned by private companies because you can guarantee things like federal prisons and stuff like that won't be run by private companies. But we're just talking about state prisons, I suppose. They're run by private companies. So if they're getting paid $30,000 a year per prisoner, and it's only cost them 20,000 a year to housing them, that's including paying the guard, all the electricity and everything. I don't know how much, but and they're doing it, so they're gaining money. You have to be, or else they wouldn't be in it unless they were gaining money. Plus, they were actually sending that guy out to, and he was making money for them, and they were only paying him a pittance. So if he was making 10,000 a year and they were giving him 1,000, then they're making money. So when it comes to his parole, are they going to actually say, "Hey, you're a good prisoner, you don't cause problems, so you can go"? Or are we going to say the one that causes more, which means we need to put more guards, more cells, more this, more that, is going to cost us money? What one are they more likely to say we're keeping in?
I'm going to go on this slight tangent before I shut up and let you literally disassemble everything I say. But I grew up in the era of Amiga and Ataris and everything. But one of the most amazing games I came across was SimCity.
Yep. My
failure condition was you were building a city, but if your finances went below zero, it was game over. And this is me about 7 years old. And to this date, now in mid 40s, I still don't understand how people are going, yeah, just borrow more. And it's like, yeah, we're in the red. We can borrow more. We can just keep going. It's the same for that prison model. It's like, don't worry, we will get more. And it's like, we're still running in the red. Yeah, just borrow more. Just get more money. I never understood that. People that should be put in charge of prisons, fire stations, police stations, hospitals and everything, they should have at least that minimum level knowledge. If we're running below zero, we've goofed. We've screwed up.
Well,
it should be running plus, even if it is like Yes, there is a difference between United States and United Kingdom, but we have NHS here. NHS should never be run below zero, which is constantly being run.
It's become the no help service.
No help service. Yeah, you're pretty much correct on that one.
Uh-huh.
And you even live in the area that's worst affected by it.
Yes, definitely. But that's what I'm saying. That to me, it's the same as politicians. Right. See if a politician has decided to make a change to benefits, for instance, then see for a year they have to live in that scheme. See how they like it. And if they agree it still works, even if they lived in it and they're okay with it, then they can change it. However, if they're aiming to get themselves a bonus, then for whatever they get, all of the people under and within the government get a higher percentage of their salary. So if the government give all the politicians 2% pay rise, right? Then as you go down the levels, then it goes 3%, 4%, 5%. So by the time you get down to the cleaning staff, they might be at 15% increase. So let's see how it works then, because suddenly, but it's not a lot. It's only like 2% on the annual budget.
Yeah, I so agree with that, because I've seen the challenge against a lot of MPs. I believe, and I could be wrong about the numbers, but there is something like if you get an unemployed in the United Kingdom and you have to go to like the job search center and whatnot, you get no more than £63 per week.
Something like that. Yes.
And politicians, left, right, and center, and Labour, Conservatives, and all of them have been asked, we're challenging you to just do it for 1 week. And there has still not been a single politician or MP to pick that up, because they are at what? Is it £78,000 a year salary?
At least.
Yeah, the average salary in UK is £34,000. Just to give, so they're more than double the average salary of your normal citizen.
But that's what I'm saying. And basically, as soon as they start saying, "Well, we should get ourselves a pay increase," yeah, no, you want a pay increase, and somebody else has to get a bigger pay increase. And if you're working it down, so it's no longer down that route, right? On you go, come on. But no, but that's what I'm saying. When it comes back to what we were originally talking about, is somebody in power, it corrupts. And as soon as you've got someone who is in power and starts it's corrupt, then they're going to actually
absolute power corrupts. Absolutely,
power corrupts. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolute. Yes, and that is exactly it. And I think it shows. This movie shows that the people at the top, even the chief guard,
Clancy Brown,
like it, yeah, but
that was just what we were going to ask you about, because I will be silent for about 60 seconds. That scene on the top roof when they're tarring the whatever the building is, and he becomes aware of the tax trouble and everything. What did you think of all of it? The outcome, the conclusion, the way he actually managed to stand up against the bullies? Because at the end of it, he managed to get freedom while still sitting inside a prison. So he got them beer, he got them all of that.
See, I don't know. It's one of those things. I thought that scene. I didn't really like that scene, because yes, he could have approached, but the fact that he walked up and suddenly they jumped, to me, it would have been a case of he's very unlikely just to walk up right up to them and then suddenly they all jump, especially when he knows how violent they could be. Sort of saying, excuse me, boss, and then it said to him, rather than just coming up and saying it, I thought that was a wee bit out of it, considering he's a smart man, sort of putting himself in a position where they could have literally just done anything because he just appeared because they were distracted. And if you distract someone who's could turn violent, you don't want to distract, you don't want to suddenly appear there and you don't know how they're going to go. You know what I mean? And then the questions he asked, the way he asked the initial questions, I'm sitting there thinking, that's not a smart question to ask. He could have turned around and says, I know I know about taxes, boss. I know how to save you the money. Could have gone that way, but it didn't. Do you trust your wife? Really? You opening a question, try to help him by asking him things like that. Do you trust your wife? Do you see what I mean? It's to me that part of the story was that was the part that was going to get
I will have to
my
admit
newspaper.
that the "Do you trust your wife?" question, that was both comedic but also brilliant at the same time. Do you trust your wife?
Yes, it
It's
was,
like, hmm.
but how that whole scene to me just sort of it was there for a specific reason to show him to show that how he get in there to help them out and how it all started. But it just for a smart man who was going up to try and get himself in to maybe become a bit more valuable, we get a bit of help. The way he did it, I thought was wrong. He went round it the wrong way. He stood up and they're all saying, "Don't run," because they're all running, and then suddenly, you all didn't turn around and thing me because they realise that they get caught. But and then he just stands up and walks over to them, and it's only when he's right next to two of them, and one of them's got a shotgun, he goes, "Boss," and they're nearly up. They can beat the hell up and shit out of them, which they nearly did. And then the first question he asks is, "Do you trust your wife?" Well, no wonder Hadley nearly bloody threw him off the roof. A question like that from a prisoner who it could be a case of, aye, because we all know she's banging so and so. I mean, a question like that to me was ridiculous. That to me, that was the worst scene. That was the one scene I didn't really like because I thought it was too ham fisted. Considering this is a really good movie, I just thought that was the one scene, which it was played to a bit of humour, but it was playing to show that he was cold, but he's meant to be intelligent and coming up with the first two questions he asked is, "Do you trust your wife? Would she screw you over?"
Yeah,
Really?
but, well,
The first two
really,
questions you ask?
that is the scene you consider the most ham-fisted,
Yes.
because I see it differently, but and I think you would probably like my explanation here. You and I are both IT support staff. How many picnics are you not coming in front of every
Oh,
single
daily.
day?
Multiple. There's multiple picnics.
Exactly. So we have this, it's almost autistic or autism or whatever it is,
Yeah.
because we already know this. It's like, okay, you did a bad thing, didn't you? And I'm approaching this, not the father myself, but I know you're actually a grandfather now. Double congratulations. But you definitely had those questions before, and it's like, oh, come on, why do I have to answer this? But it is that moment when you get a brave question from, say, your kid or your employee or whatnot. I see it as that level. I see it as him seeing his perspective, and he knows he has to grab. And I keep forgetting Clancy Brown's character name in the
It's
film,
Captain Hadley.
Captain Hadley. He sees him as this very hardcore authoritarian person, and he knows he has to grab his attention. He doesn't care about the guard standing around. He has to grab Hadley's attention.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But grabbing his attention by saying, "Do you trust your wife? Would your wife screw you over?" Not quite, considering he saw Hadley the first night he was in prison beat a guy to death, and then that's the
Yeah.
way he comes up. That's what I was saying. Right? Wait.
Oh, the puppies are back.
Right, okay. I don't need to get a shower. I don't need to get my hair. So this is Benji, and he's saying hi as well.
Oh, I'm pretty certain he's more interested in whatever you had for dinner this evening.
I had bacon as part of it. So
yeah,
that's what
that would definitely catch their attention.
Yes. So he's just waving back to Trunk Dog, Simi. But but that's what I'm saying. It's just what we'll do. Let's see. Right, what we'll do. We'll give it the marks, but before we give it the marks, what was your favorite part of the movie?
My favorite part of the film, through and through, is the first time we realize Dufresne's cleverness, which is when they're tarring the rooftop. And he does that whole thing of challenging the guard. Do you trust your wife? But it is not the challenge of the guard, it's the outcome of it. When he gets it's not even a pint of beer, it's like a small Coke bottle of beer for everybody that has worked hard on tarring the roof. He gives an ounce of freedom to all of them because they worked hard for nothing at all. And because he had a clever perception, this is the moment in the story where he's stepping off as, hey, don't mess with him. He can do great thing for us. Red already has his background tricks. It's like, I can get you whatever you want and everything. So he gets alone for that or left alone for that. But Andy Dufresne gave just a couple of random people a pint of beer or a bottle of beer and letting them just relax for 30 minutes, forgetting that they're in prison. Rightly or wrongly, we get told nothing about the rest of the crew that is actually doing that. But in my mind, if you give someone something like that, you're in prison. Yeah, you might have been the worst person on the planet, but suddenly out of the blue, you've been working your butt off. And I'm saying this as a ginger, just having suffered through 4 days of extreme heat here in West London. Yes, if someone gave me a free pint of beer, I would definitely feel a little bit.
Yeah,
I need to be more friendly to this individual.
See, I can understand that, but you already know what I'm going to pick as my worst part.
Pretty much the same scene because of the challenge, not the outcome.
It was not the outcome. It was the way he did it, because you've got a guard who's violent and sadistic, and is effectively on the first night he saw him beat a prisoner to death because he was crying. So he's in. He knows he's violent. Everybody tells him you don't go in the mask. And then there's 4 guards on the roof. One of them's him, and he walks up when they're all talking, and he stands there, and then he suddenly speaks, and they all jump. Anything could have happened at that point.
Oh, you see,
someone who's smart walking into that situation, and then the first 2 questions he asks to the psychotic guard is, "Do you trust your wife? Would she screw you over?" And it's after he's about to get thrown off the roof. He goes, "Oh, but I can save you money." But it's that part. To me, it was so ham-fisted. He would have actually, the first thing he would have said is, "Boss, I can save you the money. I know the tax stuff." And then it would have actually, he could have still got all that.
Well, I'm going to twist that one around a little bit to you. And this might be a film we have to review later on in the year because we have put the schedule up now.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a film called The New Guy.
Got it.
And
yes. Seen it multiple times.
I love it. And it is everything I wish I knew when I was 13 years old. Yeah,
Give
the
him a
stink
trailer.
guy, the stink guy is amazing. But that one is complete humor, and it steals from so many other films, including Braveheart.
Why?
Yeah, it does. But it is that kind of bravery that I see in there. And I think it's probably elevating this scene for me when they are on the rooftop, tarring the roof and all that.
I see. When you
Because I
see it
saw
as
that
bravery,
film
I just
before.
see it as stupidity. And I can't
But yeah,
help
it is
because
stupidity.
I can't
Do
see
not
it as, I don't
tonight.
see it as brave at all. I just see it as stupid.
No, but it's bringing
Even
down
though
the
the outcome,
biggest, baddest bully.
but he's not. That's the point. He's not. He's actually just stepping into it, because if he was facing down the biggest, baddest bully and with a plan, he might have had a plan. But that's like walking into the bully and saying, "I'm in here to fight you, just me myself against the five of you," and then hoping that they slip in the soap and actually break their legs before they happen. That's to me, that's the type of plan he came up with.
Yeah,
And to me, it was the
I will
bravery, it was
concede
just,
that there is a little bit of Deus Ex Machina.
yes, it
Also,
was.
Hail Can.
I can. But yeah, the thing is, if he had a plan, then he put it arse the elbow. To me, that's like turning around and saying, right, I've grown you this tomato. Here's the seed to build. Here's the seed to grow it. And you're saying, wait a minute, you're just giving me the tomato plant. Why you give me a seed? It's almost like here's the end result, but here's the thing to get that end result. And you're sitting there thinking it makes no sense. Whereas if he come up and says, "Sorry, boss, but I know how to save you the money," and then explains the rest of the way, then he says it would only work if you know your wife is never going to screw you over, because you could do it that way. And he explains it a bit better. He could have explained that whole thing a bit better, but it's just the way he came in. It just almost as if I'm going in to face the bully, hoping the bully slips in the soap and does damage before they kill me. And that's what that whole scene reminded me of, is doing something on the hope that I'm not going to get beat up before I actually get the punch in and get the idea across. So, say for instance, he got up and says, "Oh, really?" and just threw him, then shouting, "Oh, I can save you money!" as he's hitting the ground, wouldn't have done him any good. You see what I mean?
I think you watched too many of the soaps clips that you've been sharing recently.
No, but it's the fact is the way he did it, the questions he asked and the way he approached them, I just thought was the stupidest thing for an intelligent man to do, who knew who he was going up against, to say it. If he had actually not known anything about it, and this guard, and people are saying, "Oh, he's a tough one," but he'd never met him, never seen him, and he heard that and he'd go up because he didn't know, I could understand it, but he knew the type of person. And the first thing he does is makes them all jump, because suddenly he as a prisoner is butting into a guard's conversation. And second, the first two questions he asks is, "Do you trust your wife? And would she screw you over?" Really? To the most
But
psychotic
isn't he
guard?
already being pushed to,
No,
shall we
he asked
say,
it.
the brink? Because
No,
Clancy
that's what
Brown
caused him to get thrown to
is
the back
holding
of his
him
head.
over the ledge.
And that's when he says, "I could save you money, but
Yes.
only if you trust your wife enough." But he asked the question, "Do you trust your wife?" And Clancy, "Really?" He goes, "Well, do you let me ask, would she screw you over?" And then that's when he drags him over to the thing, and he says, "I could save you money, but only if you trust your wife enough not to screw you over." That's what I'm saying. He basically asked the most psychotic guard there questions that, in effect, the guard could think, "Are you really telling me my wife's screwing with somebody?" Over the before you see what I mean? It's just those two questions and the way he approached them sort of ruined that whole scene, because it was stupid as far as I could see. because if he's an intelligent man and he knows the person he's dealing with and he's unpredictable, why would you approach it in a way that you could get killed just if you saw a guy who was crying and I don't belong here, I want my money, and then he beats him to death. Yet you're going up and saying, do you trust your wife? Would she screw you over? What for a psychotic guy who's dealing with prisoners? What do you think that would do to him? That would set him off, and he would throw him over the. He wouldn't stop. He would just throw him, and then he would have it. But I could have saved your money. That's what I'm saying. He's going to a psychotic guy. He knows what type of psychotic, and he asks these stupid questions. Yes,
I accept
you need it.
your explanation perfectly, but that would literally just shave off from a 10-point score. It would only shave off like 0.01.
Yeah, but I would
points.
put a 1 in front of
No. That niggle
that's what I'm
bit
saying.
is 0.01. Just ask your home government what they would say about it.
Oh no, that's out of 10. I've already been told just to give it 11.
Okay, so we're at 10.99 at the moment.
See, the thing is, for me, it didn't ruin the movie, but it was to me, it was the silliest, worst part of the movie. That's what I'm saying, because it made zero sense for someone who's meant to be that intelligent. That he's been working on his tunnel, he's been working on framing them, the book, the Bible with the hammer thing in it, and stuff like that. He's been working on this for years, but he's dumb enough to go up to the psychotic guard who's quite happy to murder somebody.
I'm sorry, I think you're conflating the timeline here, because the challenge on the roof is the first part before he becomes the accountant, before he becomes the librarian,
yes, but he already had the Bible just before it as well, so he must have already been the tunnel.
He's already starting to gain a bit of favors. Yes, but he still has to knock the pieces out.
Had the Bible. So he already had the Bible, which means, and he already had the hammer. Remember?
Yep.
So he had those, and so he'd already started working his plan to get out. So he'd already had the Bible out for the hammer to sit in, so nobody could find it, because he knew the warden was very religious, so the Bible was a good thing. And
it was the warden that gave him the hammer.
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he knew nobody's going to actually rip up the Bible to see what's in it, because the warden gave him it because he's a very religious man. But what I'm saying is, that was the start. But you already knew he was intelligent because of at the end, you already knew where he was going. You knew he was intelligent. It tells you throughout that he's not a dumb man. Even in his trial, he's a banker. He does this. It's that type of thing, and yet he does something so nuts.
No, I don't think we will find an agreement on this one, because I see this as part of his intelligence. Because whenever you play a game,
his lack of intelligence, I think if it's his lack of intelligence.
Yeah, well, I'm perfectly happy to see that perspective, but for me, it is if you're playing a game, on this level, sooner or later you're going to have to attack the bully or the king of the bullies, and you're going to have to push them like off foot, off balance. You're going to have to do that in the most ridiculous way. If you think about Lord of the Fireflies, before Piggy, and apologies to anyone that hasn't read Lord of the Fireflies, Piggy sadly dies.
It's Lord of the Flies, not the Fireflies.
Lord of the Flies, sorry. That's a good correction. But before Piggy actually sadly gets killed, the, shall we say, off leader that isn't part of, shall we say, the main plan, is actually making a good case why Piggy should be around. And then they still just decide that no, it's because our fun. It's entertainment. We're gonna throw him off a cliff. Lord of the Flies, by the way, for those of you faint of heart, don't read it. Don't go near it.
I was in secondary school when I saw the movie The Lord of the Flies. Then we read the book. Then they brought in a theatre production to the school, and I saw all three mediums: book, movie, and theatre, and I enjoyed all three of them. But the last time I read it or watched it was when I was a teenager.
Yeah, Lord of the Flies is brutal.
Yeah, you're talking about 40 to 45 years ago. So I think I was about 12 or 13. Yeah. So 45 years ago was doing I read it. So it's kill the pig, cut its throat, spill the blood. Yeah. I sort of remember parts of it, so it's one of those things. But yeah, but it's one of those things. I see it as the opposite. I can understand where you're getting it, and I'm not saying it's a bad scene, but to me, it was a nonsensical scene. That's all. It's not I dislike the scene. I just think the scene went counter to the rest of his perception.
Yes.
And yes, it could be because Red is telling a story and that's how Red perceived it. Oh, he just walked up and he did this, he did that. And then when he nearly get threatened and he says about saving money, because it's obviously Red's story, it's been shown on screen. Did he actually go up and do it that way, or say, "Excuse me, boss, I know how to save you money"? What? Well, do you trust your wife? Oh, you're getting angry. I mean, so it might have been done differently. But
Red's focus is more on the whole thing that Dufresne is sitting down. Mm-hmm. He's not taking one of the bottles of beers.
Yeah,
he's just sitting there and enjoying a good day's labor. He's just sitting there. He's not taking a drink. Everybody else is having one, including Red.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I do because yes, in a film like this, you have to hunt hard.
Story, it may actually not be right, but we can only base it on the movie, not what we perceive the narrator was actually seeing or remembering. But because we're watching the movie, and it's just, to me, it's not a bad scene. It just made zero sense that someone with intelligence would do that to a known psychopath that they don't know what they would do. And that's the part, because you've got a psychopath.
I respect your opinion, but I humbly disagree.
Beat him to death. Yeah, he's gone up and actually, effectively, he could be slagging his wife for all he knew, or he could have been implying his wife. Implying his wife was sleeping around for all he knew. Yeah, for a guy who beat somebody to death just because he was crying and says he didn't belong there. You see what I mean?
I still humbly disagree. This was part of the clever plan. That's how I see it. I understand that you don't see it that way. You think it is like a story breaker to a part of it.
Basically, it was nonsensical.
Yes.
It would be me watching Star Wars, and then suddenly somebody says, but Princess Leia didn't get she didn't fight for the plan. Somebody handed her them and she took the credit. You know what I mean? Star Wars, she was the freedom fighter who got the plans and gave them to, and Darth Vader was after them.
Even in this one, I think I'm going to have to nitpick it, because I believe, and I know I'm going to get slammed for this, I believe the actual wording in the film is Leia obtained the plans for the...
She obtained them, but she was basically...
So that implies she didn't take them. She didn't capture them. She obtained
implies
them.
That she got them. Not a case of she's a courier here. She has somebody handed in took all the credit, and so she's taking the credit for delivering the plans. She obtained them. The way it was implied in the movie that she got them from somewhere. You didn't know where. It could have been her thing, but it implied that she was part of getting them. It was implied that she was part of the group that got it. And then
Well, we still have no story canonical. And by the way, when I say canonical, anything Disney has touched is not canonical. But she could have paid, commissioned, hired, even if it was like 5 hands down the line.
We have to base it on what was on screen. I know they basically initially going down the route, they started doing books or the going thing, but the fact is, right, first of all, she obtained them, right? Don't know how she obtained them, which was great because you didn't need, you could put her in whatever thing. However, then when they were showing them in the briefing that we've gone over these plans and we have discovered a weakness. Not we were given these plans and shown a weakness that somebody built into it. So the fact is, they got the plans and they went over them and found a weakness. Sort of says, well, Rogue One is complete crap. That the fact that they're saying that they put the weakness in for somebody to think me because
that is the part I'm missing.
Yeah.
But because we have no explanation. They just got the plans and it's like, oh, hey, look, there's a weakness here. No, they would have had to get that from the engineer that actually built it and drew the schematics that were then stolen. But then again, why was the schematic placed on the highest tower in the highest place with the strongest guards and the strongest forces and the most armed equipped protection? Why? You could have literally just forced the engineer to say, hey, fix that problem.
Uh-huh.
Because I know how to fix it today. I've just raised a ticket in the ticketing system and it's like, fix that stuff.
Yeah. There you go. Disney is hiring paralegals. And thankfully, Kelly Inch is not applying, besides the fact that they do not want she didn't want it. I don't.
Thank God for Kelly, because if she got hired, she would actually do something right, and I don't think Disney needs anything of that.
Yeah, they don't want something right; they want something wrong. But they're looking for people who do contracts, not litigators, which means they're wanting to tighten up their contract because there's been too many leaks on their secret agendas. They want to make them secret again. So they want to put a lot of DNAs and stuff like that.
Oh, I have so many questions around Disney, but they are not suitable for anything YouTube can like.
Yeah.
But you did your dislike part of the show. Now bring forward your.
You recognize him.
I've seen that he's constantly smashing stuff. Was it body?
It says God's gift, and at the bottom it says Captain Caveman. Captain Caveman.
It's sort of a familiar name, but I think I just read the translated one. But he's basically smashing everything. So it's like a 3-frame cartoon strip.
Yeah.
And Captain usually Caveman, at like the end of it, he's just smashing whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, it's an anime. It was an animated cartoon around the time of the Flintstones. He was defrosted in the 60s, and he was the first.
Oh, yes. And doesn't the club have a nail through it?
Yes. No. It doesn't. I don't think it had a nail through it. It's just a club because he's Captain Caveman and he could fly and he always ran it. He kept flying into stuff and stuff like that. But no.
Might be a different one I'm thinking of, because the one I'm thinking of has a caveman club, caveman era. But the Caveman Club always has like this massive iron nail through
No, I
it.
know, but
So
the
whenever
Captain
he's
Caveman
smacking it,
never had it. They're Kelly, and she may be a woman, but she's still white, so they won't want her in.
I'm so sorry that you're white.
I know, we have to
My
apologise for
deepest
this.
condolences.
But no, Captain Caveman was the first superhero who was defrosted, like Captain America. Hence the reason Captain Caveman. Because
Wasn't it?
like
What wasn't Cayman defrosted like you just said? 68. I believe Captain America was defrosted a lot later.
yeah, but it was in the books where that Captain America came from. So the comic books. But see if you get a chance, look on YouTube for Captain Caveman, and it will show. It should show you some of the animation, and you'll see what I mean. Because it is
Oh, you
absolutely
don't want to know how many tabs I have open. I will try to bookmark it somewhere, but I got like 38 tabs open across 3
yeah.
windows at the moment. But
So,
if we move it on,
yeah.
so I'll give you but a couple of minutes because BioBrick.
Yeah.
The greatest thing about Shawshank Redemption, what was it that really made you love this film? And I
Morgan
know
Freeman's
you
narration.
have backroom pressure.
Morgan Freeman's narration. Him talking over it and explaining the story and how it was coming out, how he met Andy and how Andy did this, and it was his narration actually just helped the story flow. And I think that's what made the movie far superior. If that was just a movie and you took the Morgan Freeman's narration out of it, it would still be an okay movie, but I think that's all it would be, an okay movie. Whereas Morgan Freeman over the top just brings the whole story together and lets it flow. I think that's what made it for me. So it is. What about you? What was your favourite part? Jim? Right, well, we're waiting.
So you don't have a specific scene that brings you just like, oh, this was really great, even if it was a horrible thing like the
Oh,
institutional.
what single scene I thought was a great scene? I think the scene in the jail cell when he had escaped and the warden was going apeshit, and then suddenly, and it was right through, and he just looked in his face when they all just looked at the thingy, and then he sticks his hands through and lift it up. I think that whole scene was just one of the best scenes in the movie. I just thought that was seeing him going psycho, and then suddenly the realism that he's escaped. Not a case of he's disappeared. How the hell can he disappear? Somebody's to blame. And then as soon as he lifts that up, you can just see the face as if to say, it's my fault because I'm the warden, and if somebody escapes, I get to blame. Because if there was nothing wrong with that cell, then somebody had to let him out. So it was somebody else's fault. But when they do that, and there's a big hole in the wall, and it's a big tunnel, and he's obviously been at it for years, and he's been in charge the whole time. I think that's, to me, is the greatest scene in that. Just that whole panic look on the warden's face. That's my favourite part. What about you? What was your favourite part? Right. Jim will be back in a wee
So
minute.
let's see if
There
I
you
get
go.
off mute here. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
It looks like you can hear me. So my least favorite part is, why is he even arrested? Because it's never really clear that he did commit the crime which he's convicted of. And we're talking, what's it called? Uh, there's a famous legal film that every law student should watch, from like 1930s. It has that whole prejudices like, oh, you're this kind of person, you go to jail regardless. We don't care.
Yeah, that's the To Kill a Mockingbird.
Kill a Mockingbird, yes. Although that one puts out the entire drama, whereas we get this in like 5 minutes, and then he's just slammed right into the prison system and the whole thing.
But see, the thing is, I can't agree with that, because you know why he got arrested. Because his wife and her lover got killed, and they found the bullets in the bottle with his fingerprints, and the bullets matched.
But they didn't have fingerprint technology back
They
then.
had fingerprints on the bottle of booze that he dropped and smashed. That's what it says. The bullets were lying next to the broken bottles, which had his fingerprints on. It was his wife and her lover. So the fact that it was his wife and her lover, and she was killed, and
but it still adds to my theory. It's like he was driving up. He may have had the intention to kill them,
but the thing
but
is,
got too drunk, passed out.
The circumstantial stuff, that's why the movie is good, because the circumstantial stuff, if you're on that jury and you only heard the circumstantial evidence and him saying, but I was going to do it, but I decided not to at the last minute, I threw my gun away. But so even though they got shot with a similar gun to the bullets that you found that were next to the bottle that I had, and I was there with a gun, but I threw it away instead. You see what I mean? The fact is, if I was on that jury and I heard the prosecution's case, and his case was, well, I was going to do it, but I decided not to, but it happened anyway, wasn't that a coincidence? I would have convicted him, because their case was quite a solid one.
You wouldn't convict her because we're stuck in a crappy juror system here in UK, because you would be paid like 10% of your daily income as compensation for doing you would have financial motivation to just go, now screw this, the guy is guilty, I need to get back to
but
work.
What I'm saying is, if you're in that jury, if you're in it, you've got no way of getting out if you're out in it, end of story. Based on what we heard on the show, on the movie, based on what the prosecution put forward and what his defence was, I would have convicted him, because their case was quite solid. They heard him. He's admitted that he had a gun. He got drunk. He stepped out his car. He stepped out of his car. He was going to do it, but he sort of realised he was doing wrong. So he got in his car, drove away, and threw the gun away. Coincidentally, the same night, somebody with a similar gun shot the two of them. And that's his defense. Somebody with a similar gun shot the two of them, but it wasn't me, even though I had the gun and I was going to do it. But I just realised I was wrong, so I drove away and I threw my gun away so you couldn't check. Based on what you saw in that trial, he's guilty.
Absolutely agree, but I think he wasn't giving the flesh that he was requiring. It wasn't fleshed out.
But
it was just bang, bang, and boom, you're in prison.
But that's what I'm saying. It didn't need to. That was a good thing. You know, a crime get committed. You know, he get convicted on it based on the fact is he said he didn't do it, although he was going to, and it must have been somebody else. And based on the fact is he was drunk, his fingerprints were found there, bullets from his gun that he said he threw away, and it was the same type of gun because it fired the same ammunition as the ones that he said he had. Why wouldn't you think his prints were found in the scene? It was his wife who was having an affair or with her lover, and he said he was there and he was drunk and he was going to do it, but he decided to drive away and threw his gun away, so they couldn't prove it wasn't him. You see what I mean? Yeah. So based on the small bit we had, the jury effectively convicted him based on decent evidence. Just the fact that he says, well, it was to me, and it wasn't convenient because it would have held up my story, but it was convenient if he did do it. It's just no convenient if he didn't. So it's a but that's what I'm saying.
So but again, this is my least favorite part of it. So I cannot disagree when you say, okay, it was worse. It was worse. It was even worse than that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, as a worst part. I can understand why you didn't like that part or you thought it was the worst part. But I'm saying is based on the very small part of showing, they were only setting the scene of him being in prison, but they set the scene in such a way that it was ambiguous. That word that I'm trying to say, my teeth won't. But it was ambiguous because you know he was going to do it. You saw him stepping out the car with the gun, dropping the bottle and some of the bullets, and then he's in court with his wife and his lover being shot. Not 6 times, but 8 times. So it means somebody reloaded the gun. Hence the reason why it was murder, not just a crime of passion. And if it was him, he would have more than likely, if he was drunk, he would have just emptied the gun into the two of them and walked away. But the reason they got the extra sense,
those are the nitpicky things. It's like, okay, you have a 6-shooter, and you kill 2 people, and then you reload your gun, but only with 2 bullets, and shoot them once more.
Well, it doesn't matter how many times you reload it if you only fire enough.
Those are like the nitpicky, very technical questions.
That was a technical question for a legal standpoint. Was it a crime of passion, as in second-degree murder, because it was the planned, you were drunk and you were enraged, or was it a case of you did it and then you were sober enough to go, hold on a minute, more bullets and bang, bang again. So you didn't, it wasn't a crime of passion. It stopped being a crime of passion, second-degree murder, as soon as you stop and think, need more bullets and reload. So you're actually, it stops being your rage doing it, and it suddenly becomes very cold and calculated. That's why that changed only the sentence he got. It didn't change the fact that he was found guilty. Because when he was found guilty based on what the evidence you saw on screen. And the evidence you saw on screen, in effect, says he did do it.
I disagree on that one.
But you have to believe, see, you're only hearing him saying, but I didn't do it. You didn't see him getting in the car and driving away instead of walking to the house. You only saw him get out of the car, holding the gun in his hand, and that's all it showed. Then it went to court case. So
we might need a separate judge on this one, but
what do you think?
I don't think he ever drove away. We might need Mrs. Maybe.
She's away. She's away.
Yeah, I know she is, but I don't think he ever drove away. He was up in front of the property,
with the gun in his hand,
with the gun and with the alcohol.
No, he dropped the alcohol.
I don't think he ever drew away.
He dropped the alcohol when he got out the car, and then
he stepped out of the car, but it doesn't show any further unless you've seen a different version.
No, it tells you, because he says in the court, I got back in my car. I realized I was doing wrong. I got back into my car and I drove away, and then I threw my gun into the river. He said that.
Yes.
So you only hear his words, but you don't see the crime. So the good thing is they stopped. They didn't show you who committed it, so they left it ambiguous. He's telling you, I'm innocent and this is what I did, but it's only showing you up to a point, and then it doesn't show you any further. It's showing you to the point where the legal, the forensic can say, well, a car drove to here, somebody got out, dropped bullets and alcohol, but a bottle, and the bottle's got the husband's fingerprints on it. There's footprints, and then the footprints come back, and then the car drives away. So that's basically the circumstantial evidence. The circumstantial evidence is he had a gun, he was drunk, he was definitely there because they found fingerprints on the bottles. He got out the car, walked towards the house, and then come back, drove away. And then he said he threw the gun away, but he didn't use it. However, but they did get shot with similar bullets. That was the court case. So it lies it quite well that he got the reason why he was in jail. It doesn't tell you.
But either way, this is my least favorite part of film, and this is the part of the film where they're supposed to hook you. Why should I spend the next 2 hours watching a film?
And
so
that part,
this is my least. Yeah, this is my least favorite part of film. It's the hook. Why should you watch the rest of it?
Because you don't know if he's guilty or innocent. That's what I'm saying.
No, no,
I thought that part was good. I thought
looking
that
at part,
should have
I'm
moved.
with you. He's guilty. He did it.
Yes,
Why
but
should I watch
because
the rest of it?
no, that's what I'm saying. The court case says he's guilty, but he's effectively saying I didn't do it. So there's the hook. Was he guilty or was he innocent?
No,
Which is a
I'm
question.
even shorter than that. I'm not even including the trial that actually sentenced him in. I'm saying, for me, the worst part is that initial starter, the kickoff point. He's drunk in his T-Ford in front, maybe 100 yards or whatever it is from where his wife is currently screwing her lover. That's the part I do not like. That's my least favorite thing.
Yeah, I understand
But
that.
I understand you
I
have to
see that.
propel a reason for him to be in prison.
Yeah, but that to me, I think that part would have been better if it was taken away from the front of the movie and put in somewhere in the middle. So it
Yeah,
starts
I
when
don't
he drives
agree.
it. No, see, I think it would have been better if it started with the prison, the part where the sign goes off, and then the thing that drives in, and Morgan Freeman starts. The first time I saw Andy Tree is this time, and that's would to me it should have started, because there you go. Why is he talking about this guy? And then you're building up the story about why he's in prison and do that. But that's what I'm saying. You already know why he's in prison, and you don't know if he's guilty or not. And then it starts with the Morgan Freeman telling the story. I would have preferred if it started with Morgan Freeman telling the story, and it could have been a bit where they became friends, and then he's told what happened in the court case. Still implies that the jury finds him guilty, and he's saying he's innocent. So it still leaves it ambiguous, and that it wouldn't have changed anything. All it did would have taken it from the beginning of the movie and put it somewhere in the middle. So the first scene would have been them driving into the prison and Morgan Freeman starting his monologue. That's the way I thought.
Yeah, for me, I don't think that would have ever worked. I do like the premise you present, and I think it would actually have added value to it, but I don't think there's, and this is slight bias for me, because there's nothing you need to change about the Shawshank Redemption.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying.
Full stop.
I'm not talking. I'm the only thing I'm changing is just one bit I'm taking out and putting it in a slightly different bit. So it's still the same
Yeah.
story. It's still all the same bit. The only difference is you've taken that part out and then moved it a wee bit and put it there. So it starts with Morgan Freeman telling the story, because it's
But
told you all that before
I guess
Morgan
you
Freeman.
can probably already hear my bias here towards the film.
Oh no,
I accept your premise, but I will substitute it with my own reality.
Oh no, I can. Do you want to know what my wife's reaction would be if I suggested that?
Yeah, we
would
would
have told
probably
me
not
to go
have you
to-
as a host for these shows for the
Yeah.
next couple of weeks. But no,
Yeah.
I absolutely like the way you're thinking, and I agree that there would be cases where this could probably have polished a really great story already. But even so, my dislike, because I literally have to nitpick in this film an area to just like, what was it that you did not like? There's a lot of character flaws, there's a lot of
Oh
plot
yes,
holes,
there's
there's
bits
a
and
lot of
pieces here
stuff,
and there.
but it
could
is
be,
the beginning,
yeah. And whereas me,
because
see,
it is
that,
it
your
should
favorite
have had
part.
more flesh to it.
Your favorite part is my least favorite part. Your least favorite part, I think it just needs to be moved, but it doesn't change the story too much.
I
Yeah,
haven't even explained my favorite part yet.
you did. You did.
No.
You
My favorite part is to come. I
you
haven't
said
explained
you
it.
said it was the one on the roof. The one that I said was my least favorite.
No. That is one of the amazing
One.
parts of it. But my
I thought
favorite part
you
is
said that
even
was your favorite.
greater.
I thought you said that was your favourite part.
I might have mispronounced, so I do apologize, but my favorite part is yet to actually be disclosed.
Oh, and by the way, remember I was looking for the wording for the narrator. It's the unreliable narrator. Like Disney uses they use the unreliable narrator when they're telling a story, but they tell things that they couldn't have actually seen.
Yes.
Whereas if they had moved the prison part into the middle and started off with Red telling the story from the very beginning, that means he's the narrator. But because they put that part at the beginning of the movie and it's before Morgan Freeman starts telling the story, which is the rest of the movie, that takes it out and makes him an unreliable narrator, because effectively the story's telling you something he can't possibly know. That's what's the unreliable narrator. So they're telling you things that they can't possibly know. So
but
when
Red is, to my knowledge, only telling the story from when Dufresne comes to the prison.
The whole movie is effectively Red telling the story of Andy Dupree. If they had put that the court case in the middle somewhere, then it's Red's narration of its story. So everything he knows. So you don't know what Andy knows or whatever, except when he's dealing with Red, because Red tells you what happened to him, but he doesn't tell you exactly because Andy didn't discuss it.
I think I have to rewatch it then, because I don't think Morgan Freeman is narrating anything in the first 15 minutes where we get introduced to the Dufresne. And
the only time he starts narrating is when they come in. He comes into the prison. When the prison band comes in, Morgan Freeman starts narrating. The first time I saw Andy Dupree is and that's when he starts. But that's what I'm saying. It takes him out from being a narrator, because the movie is telling you something that the narrator can't know. Then the story is taken under the premise of the unreliable narrator, because the movie is showing you something that the narrator who takes over.
And we had a lot of films like that during the mid to late 90s, and Gladiator is one of them.
You know what's one of them? Total Recall.
Yes, even so, but I will use Gladiator because we should probably start rounding off soon. But
I am murdered, father of murdered children.
But the Gladiator broke the Hollywood hero cycle mold, because you usually had the very quick intro. This is the hero, this is the villain. Quick action, something bad happens that tells the hero he has to go on the hero's journey. Gladiator takes almost, and I read an article about this years ago, but Gladiator, when you watch the full version from Scott Ridley, it takes a whole
Ridley
Scott, yeah. It takes a whole 8 minutes before it introduces the hero,
Maximus
Maximilian Prime, or whatever it is. But even so, I think we should probably round off fairly quickly. So I will give you the good part,
right?
And it's the fact that everyone, including the audience, gets delivered a sucker punch at the very end of it. We get dragged along a really great story. And we get the feeling that Andy Dufresne is acclimatizing, getting institutionalized. He'll be in prison forever. We don't see too much of him digging through the channels and everything. Yes, there are tiny glimpses, but the overall story tries to make you forget that. And suddenly, at the end, if you look at how much time is being given to him exploring the interior walls and everything compared to the running length, it's meant to hide that he's actually planning an escape.
But
You
see,
get it. You're
you know
getting
why?
slowly baked in
Yeah.
to the fact that he's staying here forever. So when he does disappear, that is a shock, not
See,
only to the story but to the audience.
do you know the thing is, actually, the reason I disagree with that is because you don't know, because it's always told from Red's point of view. So Red wouldn't have seen him in his cell, so he wouldn't have known. Do you see what I mean? Because
I
it's all
disagree
from
with
Red's
you
point of view, and
because I'm
because you're
looking
getting
at
it,
it as seeing this film for the first time
yeah.
ever. I did not expect to see the escape. I did not expect that to happen at all.
Actually, I thought it was. See, I saw Red as the main character, just telling a story of his friend, and then when he escaped, then I understood why he was telling the story of him, not just a case of, and he died in jail because you know what I mean. So I didn't get a surprise the very first time I saw it because Morgan Freeman was telling the story, and every time any of the other characters, it's only based on the fact is Morgan Freeman's narrating it and he's telling you what happened. Like, for instance, when he gets ambushed by the sodomites, as the warden called them, the bullies who wanted to beat him if they didn't want his end away. And
I see all your
basically
points,
it's
but
all from
I'm
Morgan
still
Freeman
seeing this
describing
film
it.
from the perspective I saw it as the first time.
Yeah. And the first
And
time I saw it, it's only because
when
I
you
saw it
see a
from
film for the
Morgan
first
Freeman's
time,
point of view.
when you see something for the first time, and you're not rewatching it to capture all the finer details and everything, the first time it was an absolute like, wow, he got away, and it is only getting discovered by the warden getting so angry that he's punching, what is it, Rita
Do you know what I
Hayward
heard? I
poster.
saw one criticism from it. I can't remember if it was on YouTube or on IMDb, that somebody said that the movie failed because Raquel Welch, the 10 million years or
Yeah, okay,
the
yes,
10
yes.
million years BC was filmed after 3 years after the prison break's meant to have taken out, so he wouldn't have had closer.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna hunt down that critic and gonna force feed him carrots for 10 years for because that's such a minor critic. But
Of course it is. It's basically it's one of the things
he
saying the
was
movie's that perfect that you see things like
he
this
was
make.
just like the hot ladies of
Yes,
that era,
Marilyn
and
Monroe
he
and stuff like that.
hid
Of course. And I
the fact.
understood where he was going from. He's basically saying these are the biggest criticisms I've got for that movie, in effect, which is saying this is the best I can do. The movie's good. Yeah, I mean, but
Absolutely. So, if,
I
what
understand where
score?
you're getting from. But the way I suppose when I first saw it, because I was seeing it as Morgan Freeman. So the fact is, why would
But
Morgan
this
when
was the
he
heyday of
when
Morgan
he
Freeman,
escaped?
Tim Robbins, etc.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The very first time I saw it, I remember it wasn't a big shock that he'd escaped because I thought, oh, that's why Morgan Freeman was. That's why Red was telling the story because that's why Andy's not telling the story. It's
It
Red telling the
wasn't a
story.
shock that he actually did escape.
No, it wasn't a shock because he was either going to do one of two things. He was going to escape. Actually, one of three things. He was going to escape. He was going to get found not guilty and get out, or he was going to get murdered for telling the guy for doing something to the warden. Stuff.
I see none of those plot line as possible whatsoever.
No, but it's just because because Red was telling the story. I knew something had to happen to Andy, or why would Red be telling the story about Andy if something spectacular didn't happen, but wasn't going to happen. So because Red was telling the story about the first time he met Andy, then this is a story he's telling about his friend Andy. So why is he telling the story? something big had to happen at the end. And that, to me, there was only three things that could have happened. He died in prison, he escaped from prison, or he gets set free from prison.
Now you're dragging me into a lot longer philosophical discussion here, because history is always written by the winners. And when you read the fine print,
biographies are written by the person himself or their friend, if that person is unavailable to tell the story.
Exactly, but history is always written by the winners, or the people that actually really managed to crawl out of that mess alive. So if you lived through it and managed to survive, you were able to tell the story. But even so, my good takeaway point from this whole film is, when I first watched it, I had no hopes for Andy Dufresne to live. He got in a bad situation, things went worse from there. He used his brain, and he not only challenged the bully using his brain, not his muscles, because if he had used his muscle on that rooftop, he would definitely have been trying to fly like a bird. And, well, we know the result. He would have been a pancake. But because he did use his brain, he outsmarted all of them, and he got away because tenaciousness, determination, probably a bit of autism, which saved him. Because I can't imagine a normal person crawling through half a mile of a sewage pipe and coming out clean, which is the quote you actually put up for the stream. Yep. But yeah, it's the surprise that suddenly you were following a story. This is the day-to-day life, and you forget. If I was sitting in a cinema and I forgot the time completely, I didn't realize it was like 10 minutes from the end, where it had to start wrapping up. I was just thinking, oh, next scene we see, like next cut, is just going to be another day what he does in the prison. But no, suddenly he's gone. Full prison alert, full everything.
There's a good point Cam's put in. It's funny about the poster. I wonder if that's a clue to his unreliability as a narrator. He doesn't get some of the details correct. Because it's Red telling the story, yes, the poster, it might have been a different poster. He's just remembering a poster from after the fact. We got him all the nice posters like this and like this and like this, and you could have mentioned the Ragno Welsh one. I
had Erica Leniak from Steven Seagal's Deadly Train 2 or whatever it was called, which was like a rip-off of Speed and whatever it was, where she pops out of like a cake, and she was famous from Baywatch and all that.
That was the one. He was a cook on a submarine with
I don't even remember, because we had so many ridiculous shows.
What do you call him? Oh God, what's his name? Debussy. He played
James.
I think so.
So James
Steven Seagal. He's an absolute nutcase nowadays, but when he was younger, he actually played in like Broken Arrow and stuff like that. He always played the psycho, blonde-haired.
Oh, Christian Slater?
No, Debussy or something like that. I can never remember the guy's name.
Debussy.
He was in Big Brother a couple of years back. He's an absolute nutcase.
Oh! It's the father of the guy that is the guy that fails to lead the squadron in Starship Troopers, isn't it? Busey something.
Busey, I can't remember his name. Is it James Busey? But anyway, him. He plays the guy opposite is Steven Seagal, and the girl is the one that pops out the cake, and that's in a warship when they're basically trying to take over the warship, and he's the special forces guy, but they all think he's just a cook. And he gets.
I do apologize to the entire internet. I do have the whole jumping out of the cake covered in strategic positions. I did have that as a poster in my very youthful boys' room.
Mine was Debbie
back in the
Harry.
day.
Debbie Harry, so it was. And she just, the only thing she was wearing was her arms crossed over. That was it.
I had Debbie Harry's, and I had all the Blondie albums and all of that stuff.
Parallel lines. I think I've still got parallel lines somewhere in here. It's not it's actually the tape, because I had the record, but I ended up with the tape. So I've got the tape somewhere in this room. Parallel lines.
Yeah.
And what was the one when she went slow?
Only thing I can say about Debbie Harry is that they had cheeky, fun music stuff, and videos,
and then
but she was
we used to mess it around, because you had Denise, or we used to sing it as beneath the knees. That's where the ankles are, beneath the knees. Yeah, I mean, so but we used to do that. It's the same as the Barron Knights used to do it as well.
I think she had a birthday recently as well.
I think so, but she looked like a miss. The last time I saw her, she was wearing a red dress, and she looked like the Michelin Man.
Come on, she's been around since the
thing is,
60s.
I've always said males and females dress for their age, not for. So I've had a guy stoating around with the young t-shirts and all that, and the hipster style, and still trying to be cool with the boys. It doesn't work either. And the older woman, she doesn't need to look as if she's dressing like a 20-year-old with the skirt up. The skirt is not a skirt; it's a belt and stuff like that. And that's what, to me, some people do. They try and dress younger than they are, and it makes it look worse. I was a big Debbie Harry fan.
It will work for certain circumstances, but I would say if you're trying to dress 30 years younger than you are, please don't.
Exactly. Male, female, I think it works the same way. So if you get these guys, it
applies to both.
The rolled up jeans, the jumpers and stuff, or jackets and stuff like that. No. You can have a guy
when I'm saying this, I don't want to see 1970s tennis shorts on men in the 60s.
But it's that kind of thing. Oh, I'm getting tired because I'm work tomorrow, so we'll need to finish off. Right. So we know what we're good. We both of us liked and disliked.
We haven't given the numbers.
Scores. What's the scores? I've got 2 scores to give here.
I only have 1.
My wife's score is 10. End of story. 10. That's it.
I thought it was 11.
I told her she can't go above 10, so it's 11. But
I thought it was 11 because she's the boss.
She's the boss, so it's 11, but it's 10. It's 10. She's the boss out there in my man cave. I'm the boss.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm the boss.
That's why we're looking behind you.
Yeah, just check over my shoulder. But but what would you give this out of 10?
It's just a full-on 10. It is through and through, just gripping you. It's an amazing story. It's well worth watching over and over again. Just don't overdo it, but watch it every 2 years or something. Because
no, I would actually go more than that. I would say definitely a 10. Even though the wee typical criticisms we've got, it's a movie that it's just how we perceive it. You see one way, I see another, but it doesn't stop the movie being great. And that's
exactly. In this one, it's literally we've been nitpicking it.
Yeah.
Because the butterfly was flying across the scene in the background. It's like that shouldn't be there. Yeah, oh well, that added to it.
One of the parts you really like, I dislike. One of the other parts you think sort of messed it up, and I think it didn't, and it did. But it doesn't stop the movie being great. It just means that we perceive certain things different ways. But I would definitely say a 10 as well for this one. But the difference is, I would say put it on your watch list minimum once a year. Yeah. It is definitely that good that once a year, at the minimum. Because my wife
Is definitely around. It should definitely be around kind of like the Christmas and the Halloween watch list. So Nightmare Before Christmas, Miracle on the 34th Street.
Yeah.
What's the other one called? The
White
really old
Christmas.
White Christmas. Yes, it is films that are worth watching again because tradition.
But and my wife is basically agrees. She basically watches it maybe once every 6 months. If she's busy, then maybe once a year. But it's definitely it's one of her favorite movies, and she absolutely loves it. As you can see from the chat, she basically knows her beans when it comes to this movie. She could actually tell you near enough scene by scene how it actually goes. So she does love this one. And I like it as well. It's not one of my favourites because it's a different genre from what is my favourites, but it's not one that I would go, can I watch that again? Good. I can sit down multiple times and watch it. So if it's on and my wife's watching it, I'm quite happy to sit and watch it because I enjoy it. It's not one of my genre favourites, but it's a good movie that I'm happy to watch.
Well, if we put it this way, it's like a film you can only ever watch one time. It's what's it called? It's not Soap. It's Fight Club. I rank that as 8.5, but it is a film you can never watch more than once.
There's also, see, when you're talking about Fight Club, you always remember one thing.
Don't talk about Fight Club.
Fight Club. Yes.
But it is, even so, it's an 8.5 because it isn't the greatest. But for a one-off film, I would literally give it 15 out of 10. Because a once-watch film that greatly delivered.
Do you know what score I would give?
It loses.
Do you know what score I would give Fight Club for the very first time I saw it? Do you know what score I would give?
Go ahead.
I can't because I've never seen it. So you need to tell me what type of score I would give. Never seen Fight Club. It never appealed to me. Never appealed to me. I've never seen
it. Are you joking at the moment?
No, I've never seen it because it has never appealed to me. It's just one of those.
What isn't appealing to you?
It's just the whole bit about it, a Fight Club, and I know what it's about, and I know the bit at the end and stuff like that.
No. You don't know what it is about. You've only heard rumors.
Reviews, and I've heard people talking about it. It's just, it's not. It's the genre. I don't care about a Fight Club. I don't care about people going to fight each other just because whatever reason they give. It does not appeal to me. It's like
you need to watch Fight Club because you have a lot of biases against it.
And the problem is, and the movie would have to be excellent, or else it'll make me hate it more, because it's just not a genre that appeals to me. Apart from the Rocky movie,
right? Without spoiling it,
Raging Bull, I've never seen that either. Raging Bull,
without spoiling it, Fight has literally minimum to do with what Fight Club film is about. I will try to not spoil it, and I will never force you to go and watch it because you have your concept of what it is. So I will not tell you you have to watch it because I know how you are.
A movie and see the last 10 minutes and then rewind it and watch it again and enjoy it. Spoilers don't affect me. I don't.
No. People like that should be shot.
Spoilers never affect me. If spoilers bothered me, do you think I would have DVDs behind me I rewatch multiple times? I can watch a movie tomorrow that I've seen 50 times and still enjoy it.
I got Star Trek Voyager first episode, season 1, episode 1 lined up, which is I'm gonna watch tonight because it's gonna be cooking here. I'm not gonna be able to sleep. I've seen them dozens of times. Spoilers doesn't bother me that much. But you said you had not watched Fight Club,
Yeah,
and
because
you
the
had
genre never
the issue
appealed to me.
with its fight. Yes, it's battle, but not in a battle sense that you would think it's really about.
If it was a good martial arts movie, I could watch a fight movie all day long.
No,
But even things like
no,
Raging Bull, I've never seen because boxing
I
never appeals to me.
I can't tell you anything without actually spoiling what the film is really about. I would
Spoiling doesn't bother
recommend,
me. And if you're
if
talking
you
about the fact is
stumble,
the guy
if you
in
stumble across it,
what the
say
part where the guy is
on
actually not
TV and
real,
whatnot,
and it's all about somebody's split personalities, I'm aware of this. Makes
and
no difference.
I would recommend, if it comes across like your TV or whatnot and it's on, give it a shot. But it is a film you can only ever watch once. You can't put it on in the background and go, "Oh, I'm just listening to it," because it has a very unique cutoff point. Once you get there, you
That's like saying you
realize
can't
what's
rewatch the
going
Sixth.
on.
That's like saying you can't rewatch the Sixth Sense because you know the premise of it.
No, the Sixth Sense is literally a copy, and a very poor copy, of Fight Club. A very poor copy.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Just because he's split personality or whatever, I don't really. It's just it's not one time I've seen a review that I thought, oh, that sounds like a good movie. All that thing is, glad I never saw it. I've never seen Fight
All
Club.
I can say, if it comes across you randomly, not of your choosing, it just turns up on the TV in the
Well, see,
background when you're making
I
dinner.
never watched the TV, so I'm never going to come
No,
across it
but
randomly.
this is what I'm saying. Give it a shot if it just happens to cross your radar. Just give it a shot. You don't have to like it. You don't have to watch all of it. You can turn it off anytime, but give it a shot.
If I come across it in a charity shop and it's 10p maybe.
Yeah,
But
but 10p, it's getting stuck on the shelf behind you and never watched.
if it's 10p, if I've got it, no, see, most of the means, even the ones that stick, I get in. I do go through them eventually. I always add it to my
All I
list.
can absolutely say is, if it comes across your radar, give it a shot. Don't pay 20 quid for it, because it's definitely worth 20
I
quid.
wouldn't pay a
But
pound, but I wouldn't even
if
pay a
it's
pound.
5p in a charity shop,
Yeah,
you should probably pick one up.
it's basically the same as getting it for free, but I wouldn't even pay a pound for it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's just not something that appeals to me. There is a
But
few other
you get
movies
where
that
I'm
are
coming from on
classics.
this one.
There is other movies that are classics. People class as classics. I've not seen them, and I've seen ones that
I don't think Fight Club
Bull.
is a classic. I
Raging
think it
Bull.
is one you should have come across,
Yeah,
not need to watch.
it's been there, and I've just never. It's been in charity shops, and I just skipped right past it because it just does not appeal to me. And it's so I could have picked it up multiple times for 5p because I could get 20 DVDs for a pound, and then when I've got 18 and I need two just to bring it up, like I'll pick up copies of movies that I've got just to replace them because it might be a better quality copy rather than pick up a movie like Fight Club that I've never seen. There's a few movies like that I would just bypass because they do not interest me. And there is movies that I have
It's the
seen.
same when I'm going out for the charity shops.
We've all
But
got ones that we like,
I'm
certain
going to have to
genres we'll
push
pick.
toward the end of this show, because
I
I'm
know,
literally bursting for the loop.
same here, and we've been on for nearly 3 hours. But so I gave it a 10, Jim gave it a 10, and Mrs. Maybe gave it a 10, 11. 10, 11,
Correction,
10,
11.
11. A 10, 11. 11. She gave it 11. So out of 30, it got 31. So a big thumbs up for the Shawshank Redemption. And Cam said it's been on cable. It's on cable often. You've seen it dozens of times. Very rewatchable. And
meant Shawshank.
well,
I've
I
seen
was
Fight
assuming
Club a few
Shawshank, but
times.
I know
For the
prefers
book,
the book.
yeah, I understand that.
Aye, I've never read the book, so and Yeah, if I come across it, I might pick it up in Jim's recommendation because I don't think
I'm very
you've no steered
passionate
me.
about
You've
this,
no
as you
steered me
heard.
wrong. There's been 2 movies you've recommended. One I thought was really interesting, and The
The other
Outlander.
one was Pants.
No, The Outlander I found was quite interesting. There was another one you recommended, and I watched, and I thought
Did,
it was
did we go
actually quite
through
good.
The Outlander? I must have missed that one.
I watched it last Saturday during the day.
Oh,
So
I thought we were going to do that one for one of the shows. But
no, I picked it up just to actually have a look at it. So I'm still quite happy to do a review of it because I just managed to get hold of it. I think it was on Amazon. It was on one of the things that I managed to get hold of, and I watched it, and I thought it was actually quite an interesting premise, and it wasn't bad. There was some bits I
it
thought,
isn't over the
but
top.
it's not over the top, and it was very well handled.
Yeah.
But thank you one and all for joining us. Remember and join us for Let's Talk Geeky on Saturday. I'll be on the Father stream on Friday if it's on. And next Wednesday, we have got Jim. Can you remember the book or the movie? Or do you want me to tell you? It's Galaxy Quest for next Wednesday.
Oh dear!
We have
to absolutely demand that Wendy will be here.
Yeah, Galaxy Quest.
Because we will need someone to repeat what the computer says.
Yes, that's very true.
I'm sorry, Wen. I didn't mean it that way.
I'm telling you said that. But ladies and gents, boys and girls, thank you very much for joining us. Jim and I'm sure, disagreed in certain parts, but we both agree that this is a great movie.
Yes.
Thank you all for joining us. I hope you had a good night. And remember, ladies and gents, I'm not old. I'm classic. PJ maybe, and Jim the Viking
out.
Ta-da!